Okay. What team does Future Considerations end up signing with? We are aware it's 9 o'clock. Thank you. Remember, once we start, you guys have a little bit of a delay. Morning, good morning. Hello, Lars. Hello, everybody. Okay, let me see if I can have my phone here in case people are messaging me. All right. Lots of people saying good morning, Shannon.
Howdy, everybody. So the Sharks signed to Foley, 4 years, $6 million per. Hi, Maple. You never get seen on camera.
Thanks.
You never get seen on camera.
Corner verse sometimes at the top of the tree. Hi, sweetie. He's a pretty baby. People saying good morning.
Okay, Comrie.
Happy Canada Day.
So the Jets bring Eric Comrie back. Caps sign Radish. 1 year, $1 million.
Lots of good mornings.
So 1 year, $1 million for Radish. With the Sens, Craig Smith goes to the Hawks.
Looks like a lot of people are happy for Nashville. I'm going to guess there's a lot of people not as well. Has Gensel signed yet?
Officially, no, but he's supposed to be signing a 7-year extension with Tampa Bay today. OEL's off to Toronto.
I actually, since it's Canada Day, I made me maple tea this morning. So
4 years for OEL, $3.5 million cap hit with Toronto. So a lot of the big names are going to come off the board pretty quick. Montour is signed with Seattle. OEL's contract comes with a 16-team no-trade list. Teravainen's gone to Chicago. There was another one going to Chicago, too. Brendan Dillon's going to New Jersey.
Where can you get maple tea? I get most of my tea from David's Tea, but I think they have maple tea just at the grocery store.
So Pesce and Dillon both off to New Jersey as the Devils continue to completely revamp their blue line. Fantastic work so far. Yakov Trenon's going to Minnesota.
I'm not reading all of the trades and signings that people post in the comments because people do like to post.
They make crap up.
Not true stuff. So I am very, very cautious about reading this out loud.
That's also why when we set up the live streams, the chat doesn't replay with the live stream. I learned that early on. So that way it's just a nice clean chat and we have our reactions to everything and whatnot. Oh yeah, there's Bertuzzi.
Well, messy divorce between Tampa Bay and Stamkos.
Well, I mean, he wanted $8 million a year for 4 years. I totally get why Tampa Bay would say no. That's a lot of money and a lot of term for a guy who's 34 right now.
Do you think the Flames will be busy?
No. Reports have been Flames are going to be pretty quiet today, which might be the best move. So Bertuzzi goes to Chicago for $5.5 million per. So they add Teravainen, Craig Smith, and Bertuzzi so far today. Just today so far. I'm not putting up on the board the trades. I'm not putting up on the board guys re-signing with the same teams. I'll be doing news videos after this and discussing a bunch of stuff. So, yeah, Pesce goes to New Jersey 6 times 5.5. So that's not bad for Pesce.
Any predictions on Buffalo? Seems like they are quiet.
Buffalo's got Lafferty signed, so depth forward. I don't know that they're going to be overly busy today. Stolarz is headed to Toronto.
What about Seattle? Who else could they get?
Adding Montour is a big one for Seattle. I don't think Seattle needs that much. They might look for depth forwards, but they don't really need that much. Zadorov's headed to Boston. All right, then.
Have you done a video explaining how deals are negotiated before official start of free agency? Is it a gentleman's agreement between GMs?
I think so. I mean, teams talk to players prior to July the 1st, obviously. I just don't think they necessarily officially talk money. Okay, so Jake Bean's headed to Calgary. So that's some defensive depth. 2 years at roughly $2 million per.
Any Rangers news besides Carrick?
Nothing yet.
And yes, we're aware that it will be difficult for you guys to read the board. There will be videos afterwards.
There's a ton of guys getting signed today, so I'm gonna need to. Okay, Noah Gregor goes to Ottawa.
Hey, you're bang. A bunny at my feet.
So 1 year, $850,000 contract for Noah Gregor with the Sens. No, I picked the muffin up, sweetie. I can't just leave you muffin on the floor.
She would like that.
Okay, Ian Cole goes to Utah.
Do you think the Ducks will do anything?
I don't think they're going to be busy today either. So $3.1 million. Apparently, it's a 1 year deal for Ian Cole with the Utah Hockey Club. So yeah, Utah's really revamped that blue line. It's $2.5 million per season for Stolarz in Toronto.
Thoughts on Reinhardt deal 8x8? Is it 625? Skipping with Florida.
I think that's honestly a good deal for the Florida Panthers. He gives them a pretty good discount. He would have made over $10 million a year on the market.
Hello from Bosnia, which is beside Croatia, if you didn't know.
Howdy.
Did know where Bosnia is.
Oh, yeah.
We know geography. Not the best at all of my states and provinces for other countries, but.
Okay, so the full schedule comes out tomorrow. Brady Shea's going to Nashville as well. Okay, Perron's going to Ottawa. 2 year deal, $4 million per.
Do you expect much from Vancouver today?
They're trying to get the mid-tier guys, but they're going to go fast here. So Shea gets 7 years, $7 million value, or $7 million per season. That's a lot of money for Shea, but I get it.
Happy my Devils are revamping the blue line. I think that was one of the problems last year. Got trust in Fitz right now. Happy Canada Day from New Jersey.
Happy Canada Day to New Jersey. See, you and I both wore Canada.
Yeah.
And my hat matches your jersey.
Yeah, it does. We're matching. How romantic.
Mine's the 1972 Canada.
The bunnies are doing fantastic. We didn't take them outside today because it's Canada Day. So we won't be home.
Okay. Anthony Mantha's headed to Calgary. Yes. I haven't seen the cap hit yet.
Do you think the Bruins made a mistake by now re-signing Swayman before UFA Day? Would be helpful to know how much money you have available.
The question becomes, how much is he looking for? Could be really, really pricey.
My heart hurts not having Stamkos. Best bolt ever.
Okay, Lindholm goes to Boston. So see, Canuck fans, apparently Zadorov's headed to Boston, Lindholm's headed to Boston. If you want to cheer for Boston, you can. This is where they'd be throwing things at me.
That.
So 7 years for Lindholm with Boston, $7.75 million per. He better bounce back. For that to work, he better bounce back.
Is that Chickern?
Yeah, Chikrin's gone to the Caps.
Mac is going nuts with moves this year. I'm trying to keep
the trades I'm not getting into. Just doing the free agent signings and only where they switch teams.
Just joined the live. You might have already talked about it, but what are your thoughts on Brandon Montour deal?
I mean, there's some risk to it. It's a really big money deal. He was on a very good blue line in Florida. It won't be as talented a blue line in Seattle, but he's a very good defenseman. I've liked Montour for a long time. We'll see how the term ends up playing out, but it's going to be good for Seattle out of the gate.
Buffalo needs backup goalie, mid 6F now under floor.
It depends on how they feel about their goaltending with Levi and Luukkonen. If they're comfortable with that, they may not be as aggressive for a goaltender. Casey DeSmith out there is one that might work, but we'll see what they do.
Happy Barry Trotz Day. Holy smokes.
So yeah, Lindholm gets some big money there. Cap Friendly posting that $293 million have been given out already in contracts.
That's a lot.
Yeah. Today's just as bonkers as we thought it was going to be. Arvidsson's going to Edmonton.
What do you think of all the Panthers defensemen leaving?
Well, I mean, this is the case, right? You win the Stanley Cup, and as soon as you win the Stanley Cup, everybody's asking price goes up. This is where Bill Zito's going to earn his pay. Now he's got to go out and find the next Brandon Montour. He's got to find another diamond in the rough like they did with Forsling. That's part of the job. So Arvidsson's going Edmonton. If he can stay healthy, he's a 20-25 goal scorer.
Oh, goodness. Canucks sleeping again. Hawks.
I don't mind that when I see some of the money that's going around right now. Brossois signs 2 years with Chicago, $3.3 million cap hit.
Hawks signed C. Smith, Martinez, Brossois, Maroon, Toivu, and Bertuzzi.
Yeah, I got most of them on the board already.
I'm just reading them. Are my Blues going to do anything? Happy Canada Day from St. Louis.
I don't know. I don't know if the Blues are going to be all that busy. I'm because again, when you see the amount of money that's going around right now, it's a lot. If you're a GM and you go, you know what, that's a little bit rich for me. I don't actually mind that so much because the Blues re-signed Kapanen. Sharon Govich just signed a 5-year extension with the Flames. $5.75 million cap hit for that.
Matt Roy not confirmed. Let's not spread false ideas. Yeah, we're pretty darn careful. That's why I don't read a lot of the comments when people are mentioning things. It's because I have no idea who's just making stuff up, because that does happen a lot.
Yep.
A lot. Boston's still on Stevenson after Lindholm.
It's going to be tricky for them to be able to get him. They're going to try, though, is my guess. Zucker signs with the Sabres. 1 year, $5 million.
No, can't pronounce that one.
Yeah, I already got that one. So that one's already on the board. 7 times 7. Already on the board.
So it's true Stamkos is going to the Preds?
Yep. 4 years, $8 million per. Forbert's going to Vancouver. The Hawks. Yeah, Maroon's going to the Hawks as well. I don't have the cap hit yet, but yeah, Chicago's all of a sudden got a lot better. 2 times 4 for Edmonton with Arvidsson. So good contract for Arvidsson.
The comment section is basically saying that some teams are doing a ton, and why aren't the other teams doing anything?
Well, some teams have a ton of cap space, and some
the
don't.
Chat looks like.
Yeah, some teams don't have that kind of cap space.
Do you think the Flyers will be on Shane Pinto?
There's rumors that a team might sign him to an offer sheet, but whatever offer sheet gets signed, the Sens are going to match it. So there's been a lot of talk about an offer sheet, but Pinto also doesn't have arbitration rights. So there's some speculation that maybe Pinto's group really wants an offer sheet so they can force Ottawa's hand.
Is Draisaitl still available?
Draisaitl's not available. Draisaitl's available next summer, and he's going to get re-signed, I would think, before that or traded. I can't see him being lost for nothing.
Do the Blues, with the Hayes cap dump, re-sign Buchnevich?
Maybe. I mean, there's been rumors they were looking to move him, so we'll see if they decide to keep him around. Devin Cooley signs a contract with the Flames. So some goaltending depth there.
Free agency officially began at 12 Eastern, so why did nearly every big FA get signed prior to that time? Aren't teams not allowed to negotiate with free agents until the free agency period opens?
Officially, yes. It's not as bad as it was a few years ago when they had the negotiating period, the official negotiating period beforehand. We knew exactly where everybody was going and for how much before the day started. Everybody. So it's better than it was. Kulikov staying with Florida. Slavin officially signs his big extension with Carolina. 8 years, a total of $51.69 million.
The Stars have money. Where are they?
Again, teams having money doesn't necessarily mean that you spend all of it today. Zadorov goes to Boston. It's a 6-year deal, $5 million cap hit. There's a lot of risk with a 6-year deal for a physical defenseman like Zadorov.
How do you feel about the Ekblad trade?
I didn't see an Ekblad trade.
Or how likely? How likely do you feel about?
I don't know that they're going to trade Ekblad. I'd be kind of surprised if they did. So it's 3 times 4 for Dylan. That's confirmed.
Seems like no one wants to go to Montreal.
Montreal doesn't have to be in on this. Like, that's the thing. People get mad about certain teams not being in on free agency day, but it's very rare to look back and go, well, that team won because of what they did with their free agent signings. Very often it's the teams that are quiet that end up being pretty darn good. Yeah, I'll write down care. 3 years, $1 million per.
Oh, Lars gifted memberships. Very nice.
Thank you, Lars. Greatly appreciated.
It's like happy Canada Day presents.
So Zadorov and Lindholm are officially headed to Boston. Again, if you're a Canuck fan, I can guide you through becoming a Boston fan and show you how it's not contradictory at all. It works very well for me. I've been good at being a fan of both. I didn't get myself a drink.
Do you want me to run and grab you one real quick?
Nope, that's okay. Yeah, Forbert's going to Vancouver. Forbert's a depth defenseman. He's a third pairing guy. But there are definitely some teams that don't need free agents.
Panthers fan here. How much will Stenlund cost us?
Stenlund, I can't see being more than $1 million. I don't think Stenlund will be more than $1 million. Fourth line player shouldn't be more than $1 million. So the Gensel contract became official today too. He did sign with Tampa.
Do you think Tarasenko re-signs with Florida?
I mean, if he wants to, I'm sure that they can figure it out. We're seeing some guys today change teams because my guess is that the bidding war the teams are coming from aren't able to keep up. It's going to be on Tarasenko. If he wants to get a big payday, he may have to move. If he likes it in Florida, he'll re-sign.
Any big names left?
Oh, there's still a lot of players out there. There are a ton of players out there. So Martinez goes for 1 year, $4 million to Chicago. I'll put that one over top here.
The Predators are raising my blood pressure.
They spent money today. Stamkos, Marchessault, Shea, they're going to be good. Roy to Capitals at 7 years. It's a total of $38.5 million. It is official.
Vegas needs a backup rate.
I mean, yes, unless they find a way to circle back on Schmid, but I don't think that's going to happen. So we'll see.
What's your honest thoughts of the Devils 24-25 squad? What position should they sign next?
Well, the Devils have remade their blue line. They've remade their goaltending. I don't think they need to do much.
Azrael.
No.
Yeah. Really hoped the Jets would keep Monahan.
Just pricey. Losing Dillon's going to hurt for Winnipeg. I think Winnipeg's blue line's going to be interesting this coming season.
I'm really sad Leafs didn't take Brossoit, but what are your thoughts?
Brossoit is a really good backup. I think Stolarz is going to be fantastic in Toronto. I've been a fan of Stolarz for a couple seasons now. I think Toronto fans are going to be happy with Stolarz. Overpays Nashville for Tanner, then takes back Mac to give him space to get Stamkos. These free agents. Sad day in Tampa. We'll see what happens with Tampa from here. Because again, it's only July the 1st. There's a lot of time before the start of next season. And I still think Gensel's going to be a pretty good get for them. I think Gensel's going to produce a lot of points and goals.
These are some mind-boggling contracts.
I said that was going to happen. I said the salary cap's going up. All the cap hits are going to go up. GMs cannot control themselves. A lot of teams are going to be capped out by the end of today.
Thoughts on the 6x4 $5 million Tanev contract?
It's pricey. Tanev's a very good defenseman. I don't know if that contract's going to work for the full length of it, but Toronto had to fix things on the back end.
At this point, we have to ask what the Canes can actually do besides extend Jarvis and maybe Nietzsche's. Now, Gensel, Toivu, Pesci, and I always forget how to pronounce that one.
Shea.
All gone.
Well, I mean, they kept Slavin, right? There's a number of defensemen out there. Again, it's about finding bargains, finding value, like Vancouver did with Dakota Joshua, like Florida did with Gustav Forsling. It's about finding value players that other teams aren't using.
Thought $5 million for Zed was doable for Vancouver.
Over how many years is it? 6 years? I think 6 years is probably what tripped them up. They don't want to be in a situation where 2 years from now they need to buy out Zadorov. So I'm glad Boston signed him, but that's 6 years. There's a lot of risk there.
Is it cup or bust for Toronto next season?
Every year's cup or bust for Toronto.
Vegas is going to start a rebuild here, aren't they? Also, do you think the Vegas office might be in trouble?
No. They did keep Hannafin. There's still some things they can do. They didn't have the money to sign Marchessault. That broke off last night. But Marchessault at the same time, he's in his early 30s. So at some point you're going to have more young players, and I think they'll be okay. Picking up Holtz from New Jersey could end up being a huge move for them.
Thoughts on Detroit?
Keeping Kane was a smart move. I think Kane's a good one, and a couple of small additions could be good.
GMs never learn. You don't build through free agency.
The Canes have signed Will Carrier, 6 years, $2 million per. So 6 years, $2 million per for Carrier with the Canes.
You just realized Shannon's left-handed.
I absolutely am.
Yeah.
5 years for Monahan with Columbus. So Monahan goes to Columbus. And I like Monahan. And again, that means you're putting him back with Johnny Gaudreau. So that should be interesting.
Thoughts on Florida and their future?
Oh, Florida will be fine. Florida has nothing to worry about. So $5.5 million per for Monahan with Columbus. There's a lot of risk with that contract too. $5.5 million. There are some contracts being signed today that I'm looking at and going, I don't know how well that's going to age.
What do you think DeBrusk chances to Vegas?
I mean, it's always possible. There's going to be some signings for the for Vegas Golden Knights. Players like to play in Las Vegas, so that's never going to be a problem.
Comrie back on Jets. Thoughts?
As a backup, he's okay. He had a rough year with Buffalo, but he also was dealing with injuries. We'll see how it goes. We'll see if he ends up being the number 2 or the number 3. We'll see if they're done adding goaltenders. I'm gonna need a drink. I'm not gonna make it.
What? Shout out to Yvonne from Idaho. We miss you, gravely. Not from Idaho. Oh, just tuned in. What did you miss? A lot. And I know it's really tiny, and he will do videos afterwards. It's not realistic for him to be rereading all of them. That would take forever. He can just take the Islanders magnet down. No moves will be made. I know Buffalo fans want more, but I like Lafferty, a sneaky addition.
Lafferty's a good 4th liner. He had a good year in Vancouver. I was kind of sad Vancouver didn't keep him. Although for a $2 million cap hit, I don't know they could have justified it.
Thoughts on Toffoli contract?
That's a good deal. It's 6 years, right? Or 4 years. 4 years for him, $6 million per season. That's going to be a nice boost for San Jose. So if Celebrini signs and plays right out of the gate, San Jose is going to get better.
This is one of our really big boards, and so that's why it's actually further back, and the rating's really tiny because Shannon knew there would be a lot to write on there.
Yeah, there's a lot of players still out there, so yeah. But we'll see how Monahan and Gaudreau do re-signed in Columbus. DeBrusk signs with Canucks, 7 years, $5.5 million per season. So Jake DeBrusk is a Canuck. That'll make his dad happy. Louis DeBrusk is the color announcer for the Oilers.
Fun.
So he'll be glad to see his kid here. So 7 years for DeBrusk with Vancouver.
What does the right stick defensive market look like?
I haven't looked at left and right side. I know there's a lot of defensemen out there. We'll see who ends up getting signed where. But DeBrusk goes to... That's kind of fun. DeBrusk goes from Vancouver or Boston to Vancouver. Forbert goes from Boston to Vancouver. Zadorov and Lindholm go from Vancouver to Boston. I can't complain. I'm kind of okay with that.
Would love to see a video in a couple weeks from now with you ranking the least risky contracts signed in this free agency period.
I will definitely get into which contracts are good and which ones look a little bit iffy.
Kings do anything of note?
The Kings, not yet, but the day's still young. So Kiefer Sherwood goes to Vancouver as well. I like that deal too. It is 2 years, $1.5 million per season.
Welcome to the annual Avs Do Nothing Day. Oh, people are wanting to know where you're getting all your news.
Combination of the television and just Twitter. I have all the reporters on my Twitter feed, and that's all it is. So I just keep refreshing.
Okay.
But Carrier gets 6 years. Eric Johnson re-signs with Philadelphia. It's a 1-year deal for Johnson and Philly.
Have you heard the rumor of San Jose bringing back Pabs for a year? San Jose president tweeted something pretty cryptic yesterday.
He was pretty clear he needed a year off. Banged up, he needed a year off. So I if he's going to sign anywhere, it'll be Dallas or San Jose. I'd be very surprised, though, if he said he was going to take a year off and then he goes to San Jose instead. That would surprise me. Kane's expecting Nikishkin to play next year. Maybe. It's dangerous, though, leaving a roster spot open for a rookie. So keep an eye on the Canes. They'll probably sign some depth guys. They did keep Martinook. Martinook sticking around.
We get our whiteboards on Amazon.
Yep. Kevin Stenlund to Utah.
Just know whatever team signs Jeff Skinner will miss the playoffs.
Don't say that. The Canucks had him on their radar.
Blackhawks going for that veteran presence.
The Hawks are going for more goal scoring. You've got Teravainen, you've got Bertuzzi, and then you got to think Taylor Hall's coming back in October. So, yeah, it's going to be an interesting season for them.
Sorry, the Flames let Zadorov go. Was leaving.
Total contracts given out so far, $545 million worth of money handed out so far.
I can't even imagine that amount. So
Connaughton gets a two-way 2-year deal with Columbus. Not with Columbus, with Utah. I'm not writing Connaughton on the board because he's probably going to spend most of that time in the AHL.
Murray stays in Toronto. Thank you. Love watching your videos because they're honest and not biased.
I do my best. Edmondson signs with the Oilers. It's a 4-year deal, $3.8 million per season.
What do we think of that term for DeBrusk?
It's steep. My concern with DeBrusk is I think that he peaked a couple years ago in Boston. We'll see if he gets that scoring touch back in Vancouver. It's quite possible he does.
Do the Caps know what the cap is? Is TJ Oshie done?
Oshie was supposed to be taking this coming year off, I believe. I don't think Oshie's coming back. I'd be kind of surprised.
Montreal doesn't need to spend money. They're a couple years out, and they have $16 million in bad contracts and retained salary. Thanks always for your and Yvonne's effort. Happy Canada Day. Thank you.
Happy Canada Day. Caps have signed Radish. I've already got that on the board. Oh, Danton Heinen goes to Vancouver. There's another Bruin going to Vancouver. All right, then. $2.25 million. Yeah, AAV. All right, another guy switching from one team I like to another.
Shannon's good at this.
Yeah, all right. I don't mind that at all. 2 years, $2.25 million per season.
Are you doing re-signs? Martinook re-signed with Carolina.
No, I'm staying away from the re-signs right now. I'll be doing a news video once the live stream's done. That's great, though. Good for that.
We got a lot of people in here today. A lot of super chats. So thanks for that, guys.
Yes, greatly appreciated. Thank you guys so much.
When are our birthdays? Shannon is in February and I'm in March.
Yeah, we're 1 month apart.
Almost exactly. A little bit more.
Yeah, 1 month between the two of us.
That's it. Just 1 month.
Yeah. I just aged really badly.
Welcome to the beginning of a 14th year with no chance of a playoff appearance for Buffalo, beginning of a third rebuild of a rebuild. They
signed Zucker and Lafferty, so some forward depth there. Actually, you know what? I'm going to say Zucker, low-key is a 20-goal scorer. Lafferty's a good fourth liner. I mean, it doesn't make up for the loss of Skinner. I'd like to see Skinner in Vancouver now.
Is Lindholm official?
Yes. Boston signs Lindholm 7 years, cap hit $7.75 million per season.
Danton Heinen is super underrated.
I like Heinen. That's a good one.
Anything from Tampa other than Gensel? It's been too quiet.
Nothing from them yet. But yeah, the Canucks have definitely helped their bottom six with Sherwood and Heinen. I'm happy. That's great.
March is a superior birthday month.
Well, it is a month later. The way that when the Greeks came up with the calendar, the way that they planned it was that January would be the least important, December would be the most important. That's why the Greeks put Christmas there. So we would know that's the most important time. And then January 1st
put Christmas there.
The January 1st was put there by the Greeks to signal that it's A, a new year, but B, now things are less important. So you have a big surprise party on January 1st for the new year.
You do.
And then that's it. January's just crap from there.
All right, there
you won't hear that on Sportsnet or ESPN. Take that.
Jets, no good free agents. Don't want to come here.
Okay, so Murray's contract with Toronto is 1 year at $875,000. I would be very surprised if he plays a game for Toronto. At least the Leafs. I think he'll probably end up with the Marlies. Stolarz is not there to be a number 3 goaltender.
People are saying Edmondson signed with LA, not Edmonton.
I thought it said Edmonton on here. Oh yeah, Kings. All right, Frank's got Kings. I thought it said Edmonton on the one I was reading. That's good. That makes up for the loss of Roy then.
What is the prime age range of NHL players?
Prime age is considered like between 24 and 29. Approximately, or 23 and 29 is when players are considered to be in their prime. Once you reach your early 30s, a lot of players fall off. That's where the risk comes in with some of these contracts.
Looks like a lot of people aren't very happy with Yzerman today. They want him to do more.
He kept Patrick Kane. They didn't really need to do much else. Obviously, they weren't keeping Perron. They need to let some of these young kids come up and play. So I think Detroit will be okay.
Does Yvonne get to negotiate today, or is she an RFA without arbitration rights, aka marriage clause? Happy Canada Day. I was born in January. January is an awesome month. Our daughter is a January baby. I was pretty excited she was born in January because January's birthstone is garnet, and I really like garnets. So I was really hoping she'd be born before the end of the month. And she was super overdue.
Interesting tweet here. Every team seemingly spending like Jim Benning as their GM and Jay Beagle is available. So there's some silly money going around. Definitely some silly money going around. And the term, they're just handing out 5, 6, 7 year terms. GMs, this just proves GMs do not learn. They do not learn their lesson.
Do you think Montreal will sign anyone?
I don't think they need to, and considering some of the money going around, like Mantha gets $3.5 million from the Flames for a year. Some of these contracts, I don't know if they're going to age all that well. I get the feeling that by November we'll be going, this guy gets $5 million a year. Look what he does.
The Yzer plan is very puzzling. Do you like the Bruins' moves?
They're risky. Lindholm, they're betting, is going to get back to being the Lindholm he was in Calgary. And the Lindholm he was in the playoffs for the Canucks. And they're betting that the Zadorov we saw in Vancouver is the one that they're getting as well. Zadorov can be inconsistent, and he takes a lot of penalties.
People want to know your opinion on what the Bruins have done.
I don't mind it. It is definitely risky though, because that's almost $13 million in salary cap for Zadorov and Elias Lindholm. It's pricey. I'm sure there'll be some Bruins fans that aren't very happy.
How long is the Stanley Cup window? I'm guessing the Canes are done for a while.
Stanley Cup windows are usually about 5 years. Usually looking at about 5 years. I don't know that the Canes are done. I think that there's going to be some doom and gloom around teams that aren't busy today. But those GMs may end up looking pretty smart once we get to October and all these teams need to get under the cap.
Vegas fan, a lot lost, but thought we are looking for something big. What could it possibly be?
A lot of the big names are already off the market. There was one I thought of that's still out there. I mean, there's Jeff Skinner still out there. Skinner's going to be a good value addition for whoever gets him. And then you get between two stalls. I kind of would like to see him in Vancouver because I think between two stalls is fun.
What the heck are the Rangers doing? Is Trouba holding them hostage at this point?
Well, there was that rumor that he was potentially going to Detroit, and then that seems to have really cooled off. But once we get free agency done and teams know how much money they have and what they have left to sign and whatnot, it'll make it easier to make trades. In theory, it'll be easier to make trades to improve your team. So there's a lot of time left until training camp.
Do you think the Kraken signing was too long of a term?
My guess is there were a lot of teams in on Montour, and that's what they had to do to get it done. This is where that bidding against each other happens, where GMs will get caught in that bidding war, and then one team decides that's too rich for us, and then the team that wins that war sometimes regrets winning that war.
Pinto coming home to the Islanders?
Pinto, they'd have to sign him to an offer sheet, and then they'd have to hope that the Sens don't match. I think Ottawa wants to hold on to Pinto. I don't think they have any interest in moving him or losing him. So it really would have to signal a major change for Ottawa, or the Islanders have to make a pretty good offer for him.
Is Nashville not mid anymore with these signings?
Nashville's a really good organization. The one thing that I do wonder with Nashville is that Stamkos and Marchessault are both in their mid-30s. Marchessault's underlying numbers were dropping off a bit. Same with Stamkos. So we'll see if they have a renaissance in Nashville or not.
Do you think the best move coming for Buffalo would be on the trade front using deep prospect pool rather than burning cap space today?
Yep. Sometimes the smartest GM is the one that looks at this market and goes, it's too rich for me. I'm not doing that.
Will teams that hold out today have options to sign good guys that don't end up going today for less, as other teams won't be able to due to cap?
You pay your pro scouts for days like this. Pro scouts will tell you this is what this guy brings, this is what this guy does. And your pro scouts should be finding those diamonds in the rough. And so the smart GMs are able to find those diamonds in the rough. Florida won the Stanley Cup in part because their GM and their pro scouts knew what they were getting and knew exactly what they needed. So smart teams are able to navigate this pretty well.
Is this free agency a flop for the Jets?
I don't think so. I don't think that it's been a flop for the Winnipeg Jets. I don't think there's a lot. I don't think there's a lot Winnipeg really needs to do, and I'm not sure that they'd want to have signed the guys who left for the amount of money they left for, like Toffoli. The Wings have signed Talbot. Apparently, it's a 2-year deal.
Sam Reinhart will be getting paid $8,625,000 for 8 years until he's 36.
Yep.
Thoughts?
There's some risk to any 8-year contract, but Reinhart was a 50-goal scorer this year. So at the very least, he should be a 30-goal scorer going forward. And I think he did a good job of getting the term. So he has his job security and making sure that he's not, hurting them with the amount of money that he takes under the cap.
We know you guys can't read the board. We know it's really tiny and we are standing in the way. That's kind of the only way for us to do this, but Shannon will be doing videos afterwards.
Okay,
Don't worry.
$1.3 million for Maroon 1 year with Chicago.
What does Dallas need to sign to get an extra push to reach the Stanley Cup?
I don't know that they need very much. Dallas was close. They didn't get a deal done with Duchesne that I've seen, so I guess Duchesne goes to market, but a couple of depth guys. They've got a lot of really good young forwards and some pretty good veterans as well. I'm not concerned with Dallas, no matter what they do or don't do today.
Come on, Blues, do something.
I'm sure they're talking to people.
I see people asking about all sorts of teams, asking if they're done, asking if they should do anything.
Apparently, Drouin's going back to Colorado on a 1-year deal. It's $1.8 million for Bean in Calgary. $1.8 million per season over 2 years for Jake Bean going to Calgary.
5.3 left for Vancouver. Can we get Toffoli, or are we targeting defensemen?
Toffoli's gone to San Jose. Toffoli gets 4 years, $6 million per for San Jose. If there's only $5.3 million left, Vancouver should be done.
Will any team signed Yager? He only plays at home.
I would love to see Yager come back for 1 more year, but since he's my age, I'm going to go ahead and say, yeah, it's probably not going to happen.
Spending more money on this chat than Lamorello is spending on free agents. Happy Canada Day.
So $2.5 million per season for Talbot with Detroit. Hey, Bun.
Hi, sweetie.
Hey, sweetie. What do you want, sweetheart? Here. No, don't take it.
Mine.
You don't get to just take it. She does. She tries to grab the paper and run off with it.
Okay.
She's so happy if she gets to run off with it. Brandon Duhaime signs again in Minnesota. 2-year, $1.9 million per season.
Did I read that one?
Or no, he's joined the Caps. The heck are the Rangers doing? Is Trouba holding them hostage at this point? I think you did.
Okay, I can't remember. It is tricky to keep up with this chat.
So
trying.
Okay.
Kind of skips around.
I'm gonna have to see something more on that one. Let me go over to.
What is your best cat tip for new owners?
Cat tip? You kind of have to adapt your house to them.
Yeah.
You kind of have to understand that cats are going to have that whole curiosity thing going for them. And yeah, you kind of got to adapt your house to them.
Who could you see the Pens going after?
I don't know if the Penguins are going to be really active today. I don't think they need to be. The Penguins are in an interesting position because they've missed the playoffs in back-to-back years. So it might be time to look at a retool, at least a little bit.
Who takes a flyer on Skinner, Suter, or Atkinson?
I don't know that Suter's going to sign today. I don't know that Atkinson signs today either. Both players coming off of pretty rough seasons. But I mean, it's potentially possible. Suter's not going to get a lot of money on the market if he does sign, and Atkinson coming off of a rough year, he might have to wait until the next round of signings, like say a week from now.
Comrie back to Jets. Thoughts? Love the channel. Keep up the great work.
Comrie to the Jets it's a safe move. I don't know that he necessarily ends up being the backup. He had a pretty rough year in Buffalo.
Really sad the Leafs didn't take Brossoit, but what are your thoughts?
I honestly really like Stolarz better than Brossoit. I think Stolarz is a fantastic goaltender. He's going to be a 1A, 1B, I think, for them. I think between Woll and Stolarz, I think that'll be a 1A, 1B situation.
What do you think the game plan is in Carolina now that Gensel, Shea, and Pesce have walked?
My guess is you don't have to do a lot today. Like the panic that GMs go through today with trying to get all these guys, I still think it's overblown, and I think we see a lot of mistakes on free agent day. So there's definitely some contracts that could end up being mistakes that are getting signed right now. Lindholm in Boston, and I like Lindholm. That contract could end up being a major issue for them in, say, a couple of years' time. So again, with Carolina, I don't think a lot needs to be done. I think they still have a good team. And one thing that they had going for them is they've always had a lot of depth. So I don't think that'll change.
Who could you see the Pens going after?
The Pens are going to be a tough one. Pens are going to be a tough one because, like I said, they're not in a position where they're a Stanley Cup contender right now. Most of the big names are off the board. It's a 1-year, $2.5 million deal for Drouin to stay in Colorado. So since he's staying, I'm not putting it on the board because then getting into the whole re-signing thing and it gets to be a bit of a mess.
Oh, that skipped again. Goodness.
Trennan, 4 times 3.5. I already have that. Yep.
There we go. Okay. Are Penguins going to be relevant anytime soon? So frustrating.
I mean, they're still close to the playoff line, but Pittsburgh isn't in a position where they can just go for it. They did that last summer with the Karlsson deal, and it didn't have the effect they wanted. I think they would be crazy to do it again.
Does Gensel help Tampa amid Hedman extension?
I mean, Gensel's definitely going to help their attack. He's a point-per-game player. He's a guy who can score 40 goals in a season. He should be a natural fit in Tampa. We saw in Carolina how talented he is. And of course, we knew that from Pittsburgh as well. So, yeah, I think they'll be fine. And I think that we will see Hedman get an extension with Tampa. I'd be very surprised. He's also going to be the next captain.
I saw somebody commented that their best cat tip was getting used to the smell. If you can smell cats, you need new litter or you need to be cleaning it often. Because I'd be really upset if I could smell cat in our house.
Duchesne extends with Dallas 1 year, $3 million. There we go. Good for Dallas.
Happy with the Devils' addition to defense so far. What forward additions can you see them bringing in? Possible Adam Henrique return.
Henrique's out there. There are a bunch of forwards that are out there. I don't think they need a lot up front. It was the blue line and in net where they needed to fix things. Fogel's headed to the Kings.
Love what you all do, and Caps aren't messing around.
Yeah, adding Roy, Radish, and picking up Chikrin in a trade.
Idaho never felt more pain since you left, Yvonne. You guys are ridiculous.
Idaho really does miss you.
It's not a thing.
I get emails all the time.
It's not true.
From Idaho.
That's who in Idaho?
From their
Do you
central
know people in Idaho?
From their central service in Idaho.
I'm thinking I know
that watches the state.
4 people in Idaho.
You're so modest.
How does the salary cap scale over time?
Well, the cap right now is at $88 million for this season. It's supposed to be $92 million next season. Ideally it goes up every year. That's usually the way it works. COVID made it go flat for 3 years, but yeah, it's definitely going to be going up is the plan. That's part of the reason these contracts are so high. They're betting the cap's going to keep going up.
Of the players signed so far today, which do you think may have been signed to be flipped at the deadline?
Anybody who's on a 1-year deal with a team that's probably not going to make the playoffs, watch for them potentially get moved. I'm just looking at the board here. Not much in the way of 1-year deals. Gregor with Ottawa, for instance. But most of the players are getting term. Mantha with Calgary might be one to watch if the Flames aren't competitive at playoff time. That $3.5 million, that's highly movable, especially if you retain some at the deadline. But I'm sure Mantha didn't sign there just to get moved at the deadline.
Hello, guys. Just arrived. Any news on the Sharks?
The Sharks have signed to Foley, 4 years, $6 million per. Apparently, Nosek is headed to Florida. And Jost goes to Carolina, $775,000. So there you go.
What are the odds Boston loses Swayman and Ulmerich in the same year?
0. They're not losing Swayman. There's 0 chance they're losing Swayman. So $775,000 for Jost with Carolina, and Nosek with Florida, $775,000 as well.
Thoughts on Chicago?
They've had a very busy day. It's one thing with having all that cap space. They're definitely in a position where they can add a lot of players. And players would have watched last season and seen that, yeah, Chicago didn't win a lot, but it looked like those guys were having fun and they all got along. Foligno had a nice bounce back year. I can understand why veterans would want to go there.
I'm way behind here.
I'm sorry.
Do you think anyone takes a chance on
Shillington? Yeah, somebody's going to sign Shillington.
That's what the Wings need. Another mediocre goalie, not Wallman, a goalie.
It's tricky because the goalie market right now is not fantastic.
After those two signing, Boston down to just under $9 million of salary cap space. Have to believe Swayman takes up at least 75% of that, but probably more. Likely.
Yeah, very much so.
What do you think of the Wings so far?
Adding Talbot in net is a good idea. Just going to fan funding. Adding Talbot in net is a good idea. And again, we don't know what the plan is going to be going into this season. Maybe Husso gets moved, right? People are going to declare winners and losers right now. There's been 61 signings so far, so we'll see.
They're skipping like crazy.
Extra close with Forbert. Perron deal's official.
Do you think the Canucks are done?
Pretty close. pretty close because they don't have a lot of cap space.
Getting pretty nervous of the Preds over here as a Blues fan.
The Preds are going to be good. 1 year for Forbert, $1.5 million with the Canucks. So that's another Boston Bruin going to Vancouver.
Thoughts on Buffalo?
Buffalo didn't need to do a lot today either. Buffalo's honestly they've already got a lot of really good young players. They'll probably get some veteran depth here and there. They don't need to do a lot.
I see Lars has linked our Discord, which is pretty fun, and the Instagram with all of our cat and bunny pictures.
Yeah, lots of money given out today. It's going to be over $1 billion. Amadio signs a 3-year deal with Ottawa.
Up to $740 million worth of contracts signed today. Any news on the Wild?
The Wild have signed Trennan, 4-year deal, $3.5 million per season.
What's your guess on Byfield contract for 8 years?
I can't see Byfield being any more than, say, $5.5 million per season. 8 years is a long time, and he hasn't done enough, I think, to this point to get much more than $5.5 million per. But we've seen some crazy contracts given out. I remember when Clayton Keller got his contract from the Coyotes. It looked really risky at the time, but it aged really well.
Thoughts on Monahan and Seabus, and who else do you see them possibly going after on the blue line?
Monahan's risky. At 5 years, that's a very risky contract. They're kind of gambling that he and Goudreau are just going to refine their chemistry, but that's a risky signing. Yeah, we'll see how it goes, but there's definitely some risk to that.
Vancouver Bruins versus Boston Canucks.
Yeah, I'm happy about the way that they've been doing things.
Lost a lot of faith in Yzerman. Who does he target?
Again, Yzerman might be one of the general managers looking at the market right now and deciding it's too rich. There's a lot of guys getting a lot of money today that I don't know. I mean, there's definitely a ton of risk to these signings.
Flyers will be quiet today.
Yep. The Flyers already have been quite clear.
Nice day for Chicago. Was a little surprised they decided to spend.
Marchessault on TSN said, I don't think they tried their best to keep me about the Golden Knights.
Oh.
So, and I know that's the interview too that I'm watching, but because of the chat, I can't actually hear it. So I'm glad somebody posted it on here. So there might be some bad blood between he and the Golden Knights.
Thoughts on where Laine may go? What's your best trade package that makes sense?
Laine's tough because an $8.7 million cap hit. There aren't very many teams that can take that on, even if they retain like 25%. I honestly, if I was a GM, I would not touch Laine. I'd want to see him playing hockey games. I'd want to see that his scoring touches back. I would not have any interest in the player personally because there's just too much risk to that.
Any reason for me to not be crying about the Canes?
Yep, they're a pretty well-run team. They're still going to be very good next season. I remember when the Washington Capitals were a favorite to win the Stanley Cup, and then they lost a bunch of guys in the offseason, and I was one of many who said, oh, clearly the Caps have fallen out of contention, and then they won the Cup the following year, so you just never know.
As a Pittsburgh fan for about 10 years now, fan base has just turned so rotten. Makes me kind of embarrassed to be a fan. Any words of wisdom with this?
It happens. Every team, it's cyclical. Every team, every fan base goes through it. It happens. It's just part of the way things go.
As a Blues fan, so much for a quick retool with failing to sign any with our cap space. Can the Steen era start already?
But if you have that cap space, you can weaponize that cap space because there's teams right now that are probably going to be capped out that are going to be looking to dump off contracts, and you can add either prospects or draft picks and take on players.
How much cap space is left for Vancouver after signing 4 players?
It's like $5 million, I think. $5.5 million. They don't have a lot. I'd like them to stop. I would love to see almost every team have 4 to 5 million in cap space at the end of the day. It's not going to happen, but that would be smart.
Where will Ehlers end up?
Again, it's going to be after all the signings are done. Look for a team that still needs scoring, that can offer up something that Winnipeg would be looking for. And I think it'd probably be a pretty lucrative package needed to get Ehlers out of Winnipeg. Ehlers is an excellent two-way forward.
How much does Shelovs get from Vancouver?
They're not going to overpay him. I think it's going to be probably in the $1 to $1.5 million range for his cap hit. I don't think Shelovs is going to get a ton.
Is it possible to grab Shane Wright from Seattle, or are they still high on him?
No, he's staying in Seattle. They've really done their best to slowly bring him along. He'll be playing for Seattle this season.
What do you think the risk-reward ratio on Toffoli is for the Sharks? Do you agree that Celebrini has better line mates than Bedard did last year?
He will have better line mates. I think the Toffoli contract's fine. 4 years isn't that bad. Some of these 6 and 7 year contracts, we'll see how they age, but 4 years is okay.
What is the Capitals situation like?
Well, the Caps picked up Chychrun via trade. They get Roy. They get Radish. I don't know that they need a lot else. They could use some more goal scorers, but I don't know how much of that's left on the market right now.
How screwed are the Jets this year?
I wouldn't go that far. They've got, obviously they're trying to move McGroarty. I think the Jets will be fine. I never panic on July the 1st.
What do you think of the revamped Devils blue line?
Well, the question is, when you make that many changes, how long does it take for them to gel? So that's the question mark I have with the Devils, is how quickly are these guys all going to gel? And that's impossible to predict. If they gel right away, Devils are going to be right back into contention. If it's a rough go, it could be a long season.
What does Vegas need now?
Vegas needs to develop more guys from within. If they're going to stay under the cap, they're going to need guys on bargain contracts. I think picking up Holtz was a good move for them. I think that's a player who could be a 20-goal scorer for them this season. They're going to have to get younger. They're finally going to have to get younger.
What is Lou Lamoriello's plan?
Lou never panics on July the 1st. He's not one that's going to, the Engvall contract is going to bite them for a while. So he might be kind of shy about long-term contracts today.
Should the Devils have, is that Nemec, develop a little more in the minors with the blue line being stacked now? Happy Canada Day from New Jersey. I'll be in Ontario next week.
That's very likely the plan. That's very likely the plan, to keep him in Utica for at least a while. But again, you're going to get injuries on the blue line. You have to have more than 6 NHL-ready defensemen in order to, navigate the season, have a chance to contend. So having extra defensemen is always a good thing.
What do you think the Rangers need to do?
The Rangers are close. Like, they were right in the conference final. The worst thing you can do is spend money you don't have and panic spend. I don't think they need to do a lot. I think they're still going to work on trades this summer. Trouba probably gets moved. So Fogle with LA is supposed to be 3 years, around $3.5 million per.
Canucks need 2 more defensemen now. Ghost or no space with Hughes on this team? Pinto is on the move. Who gets him?
There's no room. There's no room for there's no cap space to bring him in. Pinto, I don't know who ends up getting Pinto. I'd be very surprised if he moves, to be honest. Ottawa really likes Pinto, and Pinto was close to signing an extension with them when he signed the contract with them midway through last season.
Awesome. Sabres are finally contender. LOL.
Again, if a team doesn't do anything today, it does not mean that team is terrible and being run really badly. There are definitely some GMs that, looking at the prices these guys are getting, are going to say, no, we're better off waiting until the dust settles and making trades.
Why are the Jets looking to move McGroarty?
From what I understand, he wants to be guaranteed a spot in the lineup. and the Jets can't guarantee him a spot in the lineup. So he could end up with a team like, say, Chicago, San Jose, something like that.
Any more moves for the Leafs?
Nothing yet. They picked up OEL, Stolars. They did sign Tanev, and they brought back Matt Murray. I put Murray up there just because I know I'm going to forget if I don't put him up there.
Who signed Fogle?
L.A. Kings got Fogle. Take that, Edmonton.
Which Stars have left?
I don't think Dallas has lost anybody at this point. I know they were talking about keeping Sam Steele. They did keep Matt Duchene. Yeah, I don't know of anybody Dallas officially lost today.
What's going on with the Rangers?
Again, Rangers are in contention. They're one of those teams that don't have a ton of cap space. So, yeah, apparently Sean Walker's headed to Carolina.
What's your opinion on Draisaitl and Oilers?
Draisaitl will likely re-sign. He's going to get a ton of money. I would say at least a $12 million cap hit. The Oilers are going to have a challenge with keeping both Draisaitl and McDavid and making sure they can keep a contending team around them.
Any update on Necas?
Nothing yet. And that's probably gonna hamstring Carolina and what they plan to do.
Do you think Montour on a $7 million 7-year contract is a bit over leveraged?
Oh, that's a lot of money for Montour. And I like Brendan Montour, but that's a lot of money for Montour. There's definitely some contracts signed today that seem pretty pricey. Keep in mind too that one team may be able to absorb a $7 million cap hit that another team can't. So just because a contract is expensive, it doesn't mean it's bad for that team.
As a Rangers fan, it's weird not seeing us overpay UFAs.
Because they have overpaid UFAs before. Okay, Travis Boyd's going to Minnesota. League minimum contract.
Is Verbeek playing it smart, not overpaying these crazy contracts on day one? He has plenty of cap to use.
There's no reason for the Ducks to be in on this. The Ducks are not in a position where they're looking to be a contender next season. So nope. So last year at this time there were $100 million worth of contracts signed. This year it's $700 million.
That's crazy.
See, there you go. Day one last year for the whole day was $403 million. They've already signed $745.8 million in contracts. Told you it was going to be crazy.
And less of them.
Yeah, because the salary cap's going up. And that's the problem. These GMs are going to overspend now. And then we'll be talking during the season about nobody has any cap space. And what happened? They do it to themselves.
Kane is the best forward signing so far. Wings fans, don't sweat it. Let's go Red Wings. And happy Canada Day.
Happy Canada Day, everybody. $2.6 million per season for Amadio? Wow.
Chandler Stevenson to Buffalo for veteran presence would be awesome.
Yep, Stevenson's still out there. I know Vancouver wanted him. They don't have the cap space for him now.
With Ube Kubel from Washington, what are your thoughts?
Ube Kubel spends a lot of time as a healthy scratch. I think Chandler Stevenson is going to be a good addition wherever he ends up going.
What does Buffalo need to do to garner the interest of guys that are better than a third line?
Well, Buffalo, their problem's been the defense and the goaltending generally over the last few years. I think forward-wise, I think they're fine. I don't think they need to get a lot of players. I don't think they needed a top six forward. Even with the loss of Skinner, there's so many good young forwards there. I think it's the blue line where they've needed the help. Wall's contract extension is official. It's a $3.66 million cap hit for 3 years, which is risky because Wall does not have a lot of games at the NHL level.
Anything about your current board that sticks out to you?
Chicago. Chicago is serious about getting better this season. Nashville, not being shy with the money. Lots of money going out of Nashville. Okay.
Any news about Tyson Barrie?
Nothing yet. Penguins have signed Grzelcyk. So Grzelcyk gets a 1-year, $2.75 million deal.
Swayman will re-sign, right?
Oh, he'll re-sign. There's no rush. He doesn't have to re-sign today. He's a restricted free agent. So $2.75 million for Grzelcyk. That's a good value contract for Pittsburgh on a day when there's a lot of crazy money. That Grzelcyk contract isn't bad. Smart move.
Depressing day as an Ottawa fan. Yeah, there's a reason I don't read what people are writing down as signings because they're frequently not true. So I don't even read it.
That's part of the reason why we don't have the chat replay with the live stream when it goes to the channel. So Nason gets 3 years from New Jersey, $2.75 million per. He owes that to Carolina for resurrecting his career. He was a farmhand, and then Carolina, they definitely helped fix his career.
I don't only read super chats, but I do try and read all of the super chats, which means there's not always as much time to read the non-super chats. But I definitely do read quite a few of the non-super chats.
DeSmith signs with Dallas. So DeSmith goes from Vancouver to Dallas. There we go. Wedgwood's going to Nashville.
Any thoughts on if Trouba to Detroit deal is holding up the Rangers Red Wings from making any big deals?
I would be surprised if that's what's holding them up. I think it's just the market's kind of crazy right now. So 3 years for DeSmith, apparently $1 million per. My guess is that Vancouver was only offering him 1 year, and he wanted a little more security than that.
Depressing day as a Canes fan.
But they just got Walker too, Sean Walker.
There will be a recap video.
Oh, absolutely.
Maybe a few videos when we're all done with this. Don't you worry. We can't. There's so much of it. He can't keep rereading it over and over. Otherwise, we wouldn't be able to get to anything else. Sorry. What do you think of Vancouver's defense now?
Vancouver's defense is good. I think they'll be fine. I'd rather have Forbert at 1.5 for a year than Zadorov for $5 million for 6 years. That's a lot. It's a lot.
Will the Avs do anything today?
The teams that are in contention don't really need to make the big splashes as much. So I don't expect them to be really busy. I would imagine they'll go the trade route in the offseason.
Oh, it's stuck again. Favorite deal on the board?
My favorite deal on the board right now, I like Pesce. The $5.5 million cap hit for Pesce, entirely reasonable. I'm very happy for him.
You need to sign TEG.
He's a free agent currently.
Could you explain why you think the Sabres don't need a top 6 forward when they went from 3rd to 22nd in scoring this year? Makes no sense to me.
Because they have a lot of really good young players that haven't hit their peak yet. So not only that, but how were they 3rd the year before? A lot of their players stayed the same. They just fell off a bit. Thompson's going to be healthier than he was last season. Tuck's probably going to bounce back at least a little bit off of the season that he had. And you're going to see improvement from a lot of the kids. So they don't really need a top 6 forward.
Avs re-signed Jonathan Drouin, $2.5 million.
Yep. The re-signings I'm generally not putting on the board. The only one I put up there is Matt Murray, just to remind myself more than anything.
You think DeBrusk is a good addition to the Canucks?
Yeah, I don't know that I like the term. I think the term's a little bit high. But I think that for Vancouver, apparently they were fans of his game for a while. So that's the player they wanted.
This may be unpopular among fellow Bolts fans, but losing Stammer is okay. Gunsel is an upgrade, and now we can afford depth. I don't think Stamkos will play for more years anyways.
I think Stamkos will play out the contract, but again, the advanced stats would tell you that he had good numbers, but the underlying numbers point to him relying a lot on Kucherov this season. So it's going to be a challenge for him. Once guys get into their mid-30s, it's tough. It's really, really tough to stay at that level.
Is a 7-year deal too long for Montour?
Probably, but my guess is that's what you had to sign him to if you wanted to pick him up, because there's other teams willing to pay it.
Any news on Jeff Skinner?
Nothing yet. Skinner is going to be one of those guys, I guess, that goes after. He'll be a plan B for a team, but Skinner can still give you 20 to 25 goals.
Everyone seems to think the Capitals have made some really great trades. Thoughts?
The Capitals have done well. The one question that I have with the Caps is, are they going to be able to score more than they did this past season? Because while they made the playoffs, their offense was just anemic. They need better scoring.
Anything you're really surprised by?
Surprise. I mean, Stamkos going to Nashville is a minor surprise. Although if you look at a map, Nashville's not that far from Florida. So I get it. He's in the West technically, but Tennessee is not that far from Florida. So it's a very small move for him. A huge move franchise-wise, but for him physically, not as much of a move as it would have been if he went to, say, like Calgary or LA or something like that.
Caps $12 million over cap. Time for Jets rookies to show up.
There's going to be a bunch of teams over the cap. That's my guess. Phoenix Copley and Trevor Lewis are both returning to LA. I'm not surprised by Copley. He's a good farmhand goaltender.
Is the true best situation the reason the Rangers haven't made any big signings?
I don't think that's why. Because again, teams that make the big signings don't necessarily end up being the ones that are, holding up the cup the year after. I will be doing videos on that as well, and looking at Stanley Cup champions, how cup champs are built, and where those free agents, factor in for each team that's won the cup. Because usually, if your team needs major surgery on July the 1st, you're not necessarily a contender at that point.
What do you think about Montreal not making a move?
They didn't need to. Montreal is a team that's, doing a rebuild. They're doing the slow rebuild. You don't want to waste a bunch of money on a player that you might be looking to move at the deadline. And you don't want to waste a bunch of money when you can bring in a contract from another team they want to move and pick up another draft pick or a prospect while you're at it.
No news of Tarasenko. Where do you think he'll end up?
Tarasenko is probably going to end up signing a value contract somewhere. I would think he's a guy that maybe ends up with like a Rangers, maybe an Islanders. I mean, Lou Lamoriello's never been shy about signing veteran players. And I think it'll probably be a relatively cheap-ish contract. Like not cheap, but probably not too expensive.
What do you think was the most impactful UFA signing in recent history?
Oh, man, in recent history. I mean, Gaudreau was kind of a negative impact on Columbus with him going there. Panarin ended up being a net positive for the Rangers. I know his cap hit gets talked about a lot, but definitely a net positive for the Rangers and helped bring them into contention.
What else could Columbus do today?
Columbus is one of those teams that I don't think they'll be doing a lot. I think Don Waddell's still looking at the situation there. And I don't think he's going to be bringing in a lot of players. I don't think that's necessary at this point for Columbus. Adding Monahan is an interesting move. So we'll see how that goes and if he and Gaudreau have that chemistry back right away. Expecting Chandler Stevenson to sign a 7-year deal with the Kraken. All right, I'll put Stevenson here. We'll see what that contract looks like. He goes from one recent expansion team to another.
Jake Gensel or Brandon Hagel on the first line for Tampa Bay?
The way that they're paying Gensel, the $9 million a year, he's going to be on the first line.
With the Devils' moves today, what else can they add, or do you like where they are at now?
The Devils don't need very much. The Devils are in good position right now.
Thoughts on Yzerman's limited moves as options out there are lowering rapidly?
I think there's going to be a lot of panic. I think it's going to be misplaced. It's your standard July the 1st. Why isn't my GM doing anything when sometimes not doing what the other GMs are doing is the right option? Detroit's not far off. They were right at the playoff line up until the very last day of the season. They keep Patrick Kane. I really think that Detroit is on the verge of being a playoff team. They don't need to do a lot.
What can the Islanders do to improve?
For the Islanders, they're a team that needs to get younger too and start giving more faith to the kids. Aston Reese signs a one-year, two-way contract with Vegas.
Have the Wings done enough to get over the hump?
Yeah, like I said, they're not far off. They really aren't. $775,000 for Reese, of course, at the NHL level. It's a two-way contract.
Now I get why Kraken didn't draft a defenseman.
Okay, so there's Lindholm. Arvidsson officially announced by the Oilers. Zadorov officially announced by the Bruins.
Really like Hawk signings.
And that's where it's a benefit to have kind of a blank slate, which is what Chicago has.
Not a fan of Kraken's moves.
No, we don't know the cap hit yet for Stevenson. At least I haven't seen that we know the cap hit for Stevenson.
How about the Wild?
The Wild, all they've done to this point is Trennan. Boyd picked up Travis Boyd as fourth liner / a guy who can play in the AHL as well. I don't mind Trennan for 4 years at $3.5 million per. He's got some jump to his game. He's a good player.
Skinner back to Carolina?
It's possible. They have the cap space. It's possible. So DeSmith's official as well for Dallas.
Well, people are asking about the Avalanche again.
Yeah, the Avs are still a contending team. And the sometimes the worst thing you can do is spend the kind of money that's getting spent by some of the GMs here. So I think the Avs will be fine.
I'm sorry, I have allergies. I know it's obnoxious. It's obnoxious for me too. So, thoughts on Oilers signings?
Arvidsson's a good pickup. I don't mind that one at all. Outside of that, again, the Oilers are a contending team. They'll be fine.
Does DeBrusk get a PD bump? Speedy winger that hits could fit well, I believe.
It's possible, but then that could have a negative impact on Besser's goals as well. So it'll be interesting to see if DeBrusk plays a similar role to Besser's and how they employ their power play there. DeBrusk, I think Canuck fans are going to like him. I think they're going to enjoy having him in the lineup. I think there could be a lot of DeBrusk jerseys pretty early on in the season. We'll see how he does over the length of the contract.
How much do you believe Boston overpaid for the 2 free agents they signed today? I kind of see another Coyle situation. Was it enough?
If Lindholm gets back to being the player that he was in Calgary, say 2-3 years ago, I think $7.75 million a year is fine. But as it is, probably overpaid by about $1 million. The Canucks were offering him 7 times 7. He turned that down, so he gets the extra $750,000 a year there. Zadorov, the trick with Zadorov is he's a physical defenseman. They can wear down in their 30s, and he's close to 30. So there's definitely some risk there.
Bertuzzi trying to play for all original 6 teams?
Sure seems like it. Okay, $6.25 million per for Stevenson with Seattle. So Stevenson and Montour added by the Seattle Kraken today.
Who picked Caden Lindstrom from the draft? Really cheering for him since you mentioned he's from Chetwynd, BC. I grew up there in the 2000s.
He was drafted 4th overall by Columbus. Lindstrom is a perfect fit there. If you have Fantilli and Lindstrom down the middle, say 3 years from now, if that's your 1-2 in Columbus, that might work really, really well. Keep in mind now they've got Monahan, so they have some options down the middle.
Thoughts on Nashville?
Nashville did a good job today. If we don't see Stamkos and Marchessault's production drop off at all, if they can stay in the same range they were this past season, Nashville's going to be quite happy.
When's Crosby signing his extension?
Crosby's not due for, I think is it next summer or the summer after? He'll stay though. I can't see him being anywhere but Pittsburgh. He'll stay in Pittsburgh.
What bad contracts could the Flames take on, and who?
Oh, that could be anybody, really. There's going to be some bad contracts. That's part of the reason I think why the Rangers are looking at potentially moving Trouba. Just keep your eyes peeled because this summer there's definitely going to be some GMs looking to move contracts.
Love the channel. Love
Thank
the
you.
jerseys.
Greatly appreciated.
Yes. Toronto did a great job.
I think bringing in Montour, I think that's a really smart move. I think Stolarz. Montour goes to Seattle. Stolarz is an excellent backup goaltender who's, I think, going to surprise people. He's been very good for the last couple of years.
What's the logic of 7-year contracts for 30-year-olds?
It's a matter of you're basically negotiating against a bunch of other teams, and so you don't want to lose out on the player. And sometimes GMs make mistakes when they do that. So we'll see how many of these end up being mistakes.
Habs will be busy the rest of the summer.
The key thing for the Habs is the development of their young players and making sure that everybody has a chance to succeed. Drafting Demidov could end up being huge for them too. The Montreal Canadiens have a really bright future. Hey, bye.
Thoughts on Ottawa's moves?
Ottawa. So Gregor at $850,000. There's no risk there. Perron for 2 years. There's some risk just that he's in his mid-30s.
This is what I'm smiling at. She's got crumbs on her face.
And then Amadio for $2.6 million per. That feels like a lot, but I guess that's the market now.
Do you see Detroit making any other big moves after missing out on big names? Love what you do, Shannon.
Well, they kept Kane. The key thing is they kept Patrick Kane. I don't think they need to do a lot. I really don't.
How many pairs of glasses do I have? I have about 15 pairs of glasses. So if I have to wear them every day and they're right on my face, it's more fun to have more than one pair, right?
Okay, so Stevenson is
she is right under my feet now.
Yep, that's what she does.
No. Will the Avs do anything? Their bottom six looks weak with the loss of Trenin and Duhaime. There we go.
With bottom six, you don't have to do a lot. If you've got a good system and if you're developing players really well. Colorado's been pretty good at developing their players, and again, you don't want to overpay for a bottom six forward. So you might be better off just waiting. I know that's tough for fans, but very often the team that waits ends up looking smart after.
Are all these Nashville signings enough, or are they trying to contend too early?
Well, they were already a playoff team last year, so I don't think there's anything wrong with it. I think this is Barry Trotz showing the players on the team that he has faith in them and he believes that they can be a contender. So all of this combined with Saros's 8-year extension, which is incoming, yeah, things look pretty good right now for Nashville.
What defenseman should Dallas go for? Excited Swede.
The market for defensemen right now, I mean, it's thinned out already. I don't know how much more Dallas needs to do. I know losing Lundqvist takes away a little bit of depth, but Dallas has always been really good at having guys who can come up from Texas and play pretty well. So I trust Jim Nill. I don't know that there's anybody on the market right now that Dallas is necessarily in on, but we'll see.
My eyes are broken the wrong way, so I can't buy them off the shelf. And I haven't had a pair in over a year since my last pair broke. I need a new prescription. I can't buy mine off the shelf either, as I have really wonky eyes. But you can buy them online for pretty darn cheap.
We have now passed $800 million. Sam Steele re-signs with Dallas, $1.2 million for 1 year.
Minnesota update.
Minnesota, as far as I know, it's still just Trenin and Boyd that they've brought in to this stage.
What's the best move the Rangers could make in free agency?
How again, I don't think the Rangers need to do a lot. I think the Rangers are still a very, very good team. And I don't think there's a lot that they need to do. Their key thing right now is get Shesterkin signed to that extension as quickly as possible. That's the key thing for the Rangers.
How did Ottawa do with the Chychrun trade? Chychrun, that's right.
We'll see. Chychrun did not have a fantastic time of it in Ottawa. If Chychrun gets back to being the defenseman he was, he had a couple of really good years in Arizona. It's a win for Washington, but again, it's an if situation there. 800 million given, 820 million, I should say, given out so far.
Thoughts on Canucks signings?
Canucks did well. I mean, I don't necessarily love the term with DeBrusk. $5.5 million per season is fair. Adding Sherwood and Heinen, good moves. Forbert's decent depth on the blue line. Forbert basically replaces what Cole did for half the price that Utah paid for Ian Cole today. So that works out pretty well.
Would it take for the Blue Jackets to trade for Askarov?
Apparently, the price for Askarov is really high. Yeah, apparently it's really, really high. Oh, dismiss 1 year, $3 million. 1 year, $3 million. Wow, okay. That's all right. That would explain why the Canucks didn't sign him there too. That's Friedman reporting $3 million for DeSmith on a 1 year deal.
What would you do if you were the Penguins?
Retool. I would not be busy today. I wouldn't be making a bunch of phone calls. I'd be figuring out a retool. Dumba's headed to Dallas. Hathaway gets an extension with the Flyers, 2 years, $2.4 million per.
Thoughts on Utah?
Utah's made some good moves thus far between the draft and then now. Picking up Cole, Stenlund. Cole's a depth defenseman. Stenlund's a bottom six forward. Utah's going to be a good team this year. They're going to surprise some people. So Matt Dumba is headed to Dallas. I don't know the term or the cap hit yet, but we'll find out pretty quickly here.
That Tanev contract. Yikes.
The Tanev contract is a lot. It is a lot.
Is DeSmith going to start in Dallas?
No, that's Ottinger. Lomberg's going back to Calgary. So yeah, the Florida Panthers are losing some players here.
Players that go to different teams aren't traders. That's part of their job. That's how hockey works now.
Yep. It's like people got mad at Tampa for not re-signing Stamkos, but if Stamkos really desperately wanted to finish his career with Tampa, he would have taken their last offer. So, it's a two-way street on that.
Might as well just take down the Islanders magnet. Here's a couple teams just kind of sitting out.
Lomberg is supposed to be 2 years, $2 million cap hit.
Oh, I see a few people not very happy with that one.
Lomberg?
Yeah.
Fourth line forward. Fourth line forward. I don't think it hurts Calgary at this point. Flames need to bring players in and say, hey, guys still want to sign here.
Who's left on the market are must-gets for the Sharks?
The Sharks don't really have to do much. I'm actually kind of surprised they got Toffoli because they're not going to be a playoff team this coming season. They're going to get better. They're still not going to be a playoff team. So it's more difficult to sign guys when you're in that position. You end up usually getting the reclamation projects. I'm kind of surprised Toffoli signs there, but he could get 30, 35 goals there.
Yes, Shannon will be doing a recap video after this. Don't worry.
A bunch of them.
What are the odds Dallas signs Nick Robertson?
Well, Robertson's a restricted free agent. He's told Toronto that he wants out. I could see him ending up with Dallas, but Toronto's going to want something back for him because he's got a lot of potential.
Top 3 signings so far.
In terms of ones I like Pesce with New Jersey because that's what they needed on the blue line. I like Fogle to the Kings. Warren Fogel's an underrated player in my eyes. And I like Roy to the Caps because Matt Roy's been one of my favorite defensemen for a long time. Be interesting to see if he gets more attention with Washington than he did with LA.
Did Tampa make a mistake not trading Stamkos last summer when he said he was not happy about lack of contract talks?
I don't know that they would have got enough back. And if they had traded Stamkos last year and then their season hadn't been very good, I think people would have got really mad. You let the guy play out his contract and then it just doesn't work out. It happens.
Panthers lost a few. Are they still contenders?
Yeah. Losing Montour, I mean, does that hurt? Yes. But like Stenlund and Lomberg, that's not going to affect their contending status. But this is the Stanley Cup bump. The $2 million per season for Lomberg, that's the Stanley Cup bump.
Who will fill the gap now that Zadorov was traded to Bruins?
Well, they've picked up Forbert, so that's going to help. So Zadorov, the amount of years on that contract would be why Vancouver didn't sign him.
Are the Knights on the decline?
I don't know that they're on the decline, but they're going to need to get younger.
Caps off season good?
So far, I don't know if they're going to score more goals. They I think need more goals than what they've had.
Is 4 years for OEL in Toronto going to be all the talk this summer?
It's OEL has definitely fallen off from where he was. I don't know how well that contract's going to age for Toronto. He had a good bounce back year in Florida after some tough years in Vancouver. Hopefully going to Toronto, hopefully his game stays at the level it was in Florida.
Is this the most hectic free agency in recent years?
It's definitely a sign that we're out of the flat cap, that the flat cap is gone.
That Zadorov contract is insane. What's the worst contract of the day?
Oh, it's tough to declare like a worst contract. I can say that Boston's contract with Lindholm, there's a lot of risk there. Shea's 7-year contract with Nashville, that there's some risk there as well. So yeah, we'll see.
Who do you think the Canucks target as a backup third goalie?
There's still some goaltenders out there. I don't know that they need to make a move right away for that. The problem is apparently they need a veteran, which has got people wondering if Demko's going to be healthy for next season to start the season. I don't know that the Canucks necessarily need to pick one up on free agency.
Does Wedgwood to Preds mean Lankinen is gone?
Yes. Lankinen's a very good backup goaltender. Yeah.
What the heck? Why is it taking so long with Beniers?
Well, I mean, Beniers is a restricted free agent, so there's no need to worry about him at all at this point.
Leafs still have no goalie.
The Leafs picking up Stolarz. Stolarz is a very good backup goaltender, and so yeah, I think people are going to be surprised at how good Stolarz is.
Do the Wild need a change of GM?
No, I mean I know people get mad about the buyouts to Parise and Suter, but I understand it. I know it's left them cap strapped for another year, but next summer that pain goes away for the most part, and the salary cap's going to be going up. So they're going to be an interesting one to watch.
Do you think the Kraken are done in the free agent market?
They should be, with $13.25 million in cap space given out to Montour and Stevenson. I think those are the big moves done, and then you move on and probably fill out the rest of your roster with secondary players and cheaper contracts.
Should the Habs do any moves today?
Nope. There's no need for any moves today for Montreal. Montreal made their move at the draft by getting Demidov.
Which goalies are left for Canucks to sign?
There's not a lot left on the market. I don't have the free agent market open right now. Josh Brown goes to the Oilers. It's a 3-year deal, $1 million cap hit.
Where will Ghost end up?
The way Utah's been running things, I wouldn't have been surprised if they had picked him up. Ghost is going to end up wherever a team still has cap space and needs an offensively minded defenseman.
Thoughts on the Wings situation? Talbot to Detroit. Folks still doubting the Yzer plan. I feel he's just trying to get a winning culture back to Detroit.
The amount of criticism I see towards Yzerman is insane, considering how much better the team is now than they were. And they just barely missed the playoffs. So I think there's a lot of negativity directed towards Yzerman. I don't understand it. I don't get it, but it's there. Picking up Talbot, I still don't know that Husso necessarily ends up being a Detroit goaltender to start next season.
Oh, my name is Yvonne. For those of you that don't know, because I saw somebody actually ask.
She answers to numerous other names as well.
I am not Shannon.
You could be.
I have seen a few people refer to me as Shannon. I am not
sure,
Shannon. I'm Yvonne. Unless somebody comes to our door and asks for Shannon, then yeah, that's totally me.
Yeah, because I don't answer the door. Sheldon Dries goes to Detroit. I like Dries a lot. My wife knows I like Dries a lot.
That's true.
He's a good farm hand, so Detroit be nice to him. Grand Rapids be nice to him. Gonna miss him in Abbotsford. Kind of sucks. Tanner Lazinski signs 2 years with Vegas. $775,000. It's a 2-way deal. I don't know that Lazinski plays in Vegas, but going to Vegas, you just never know.
Other potential Tampa Bay signings you can think of?
Most of them are off the market now. Most of the bigger names. Okay, Dallas Dumba. It's 2 years, $3.75 million per.
Habs need veterans,
which they can pick up in the off season via trade, and I don't think they necessarily need to do anything on the market today.
Thoughts on Oilers dropping Fogel but picking up Arvidsson? Thoughts on Josh Brown?
Josh Brown's a depth defenseman that can drop the gloves. Arvidsson for Fogel is an interesting, I guess, trade. In essence, Fogel, I like his work ethic a lot. Arvidsson, if he can stay healthy, he can hit 30 goals. And playing in Edmonton on that power play, Arvidsson could be dangerous. He could hit that 30 goal mark again, but he has to stay healthy, and that's been the trouble for him in recent seasons.
Would Ghost be a good fit for Ottawa?
I don't know, because he's really all offense, and with Ottawa and the issues they've had defensively and keeping the puck out of the net recently, I don't know if Ghost's a great fit there, but we'll see where he ends up.
What do you think Bill Zito is cooking up for Florida?
I don't think that we're going to see Florida busy today at all. All they've got so far is Nosek added. They're just going to have to rely on their depth next season and look for bargain pickups.
The Rumpy Effect. Out. Alexander Holtz, 6 foot, 194 pounds. John Marino, 6 foot 1, 181 pounds. In. Paul Cotter, 6 foot 2, 213 pounds. Brett Pesce, 6 foot 3, 206 pounds. Brendan Dillon, 6 foot 4, 225 pounds. Anton Saleyev, 6 foot 7. Holy moly, 6 foot 7.
Saleyev was the best shutdown defenseman in the draft.
207 pounds.
What we're seeing a lot of right now is GMs are deciding size is really important. A lot of guys who weren't qualified yesterday on the smaller side. So we're getting back to an NHL now where, small guys can succeed. However, teams are very interested in the bigger players. New Jersey's not the only team doing that.
Don't the Ducks need to hit the cap floor?
Eventually they will. Obey Kubel signs a 1-year contract in Buffalo worth $1.5 million.
With this new salary landscape, what does a Marchand extension look like for next season?
Marchand, the trick with Marchand is he's in his mid-30s. You don't want to give him too much in the way of term, but I think they'll figure it out. Marchand's never been a me first guy, so I think they'll figure it out.
Do you plan on moving closer to Vancouver in the future?
God, no.
I don't plan on moving.
No.
No. Closer we get to Vancouver, the more expensive it is.
Yeah, it's expensive enough as it is right now. So
I really like.
If anything, I'd move further away from Vancouver if I could.
Yeah. Yeah. No. If you're Askarov at this point, how frustrated are you in Nashville? Potentially asking out? Yes, I'm biased because I want him in San Jose.
He didn't officially ask to get out, but I would imagine he's not happy right now. And the problem is the price for Askarov is high. Duclair is going to the Islanders. It's a 4-year contract.
No to Chilliwack. I will veto that one right now.
No, we'll go to Hope.
Hope is beautiful, right, but I really like Abbotsford.
So 4 years for Duclair in New York with the Islanders.
Goodness. Excuse me, sorry.
I haven't got the amount yet. Dennis Gilbert signs a 1-year deal in Buffalo worth $825,000. So that's a depth blue liner.
Nobody panic. Lou actually did something.
Duclair is an interesting one. He may end up being one of those guys who threatens the Mike Sillinger record of teams played for. Sillinger played for 12 teams.
Have you been to any games of your favorite teams?
Yeah, I've watched Vancouver play against both Boston and Dallas here. I haven't been to Boston or Dallas.
Kane's still contender next season, in your opinion?
Yeah. I don't think they'll be a favorite, but that's not necessarily the end of the world. They were a favorite this past season. It didn't work out, so they're still going to be in contention. There's no reason they shouldn't be in contention.
Who should Blue Jackets hire as head coach?
Apparently, they're looking for somebody with experience. So that would lend itself towards a coach that's not currently got a job. I'm surprised Woodcroft hasn't got another job in the NHL yet, so maybe he ends up landing there. But they're looking for somebody who's already coached in the NHL before, so something to keep in mind.
Thanks for doing this stream. Currently working, and you guys are helping me keep up with the news of the day. Cheers from a sad, hopeful Tampa fan. Miss you already, Stammer.
Okay, so Dumba, 3.75. Gustafsson signs in Detroit. So Eric Gustafsson to Detroit. 2 years, $2 million cap hit.
Do you feel this UFA class was filled with a lot of overpaid contracts on day one?
There's some risky contracts, and there are some contracts that I think may end up aging poorly, but it's July 1st. That's kind of how that works. It's actually more unusual when that doesn't happen, which during the flat cap, that's generally been the case. Now we're back into the salary cap doing this, so everybody's going to spend all their money.
Thoughts on Sabres changes so far?
The Sabres, they're not adding anybody huge, but they're getting some depth with Obey Kubel up front, Lafferty up front, Gilbert on the blue line. Zucker is a good second/third line player. I think Buffalo's done okay.
What is the Duclair money?
I don't have the cap hit yet on Duclair. I've just got that they signed him. It's just a big welcome. And the Islanders Lou Lamoriello famously doesn't like to give out cap hits. If he could make it so that he wouldn't tell you what the cap hit was for his players, he absolutely would.
Did I read that one?
Yes.
I thought so. Do you understand the Kings' moves? Don't get Blake.
For the Kings, they bring in Edmondson, who's a depth defenseman. The cap hit at $3.8 million might be a bit high Fogle. I like Fogle a lot as a third line option. He's a hard worker. I think Kings fans are going to like him a lot.
Is Corey Perry anywhere yet?
No, and Perry's going to be an interesting one because I don't know if he plays this coming season. Like, does he sign and keep playing, or does he retire, or does he end up getting a tryout? Like, Perry's game has definitely fallen off, so be interesting to see if he gets signed day one. I don't think he necessarily does.
What do you call what the Capitals have done in the last 2 weeks? Retooling? Are you surprised they have been so aggressive?
They're rearming. They're definitely rearming and believe that they can get back in the playoffs next year. It's not going to be easy. The East is going to be tough next year.
Where does the Vancouver Metro end? Surrey.
Yeah.
Really doesn't go past Surrey, Coquitlam.
You could make the argument for Langley.
But it's not like in the actual Metro.
Because I've seen Langley get lumped in with Vancouver.
Well, Langley's connected to Surrey. Like, it's hard to tell where one ends and one begins, but they are still quite further down. So I don't think it's generally considered part of it. Happy Canada Day. Do you guys do anything to celebrate?
They have a parade locally.
Yeah, we do the city stuff. Our city has some fun stuff at the Rotary. We have all the food trucks, and then we go to fireworks later. Langley is definitely not in Vancouver. Depending on traffic, it takes at least a half hour, at least. And yes, that is where the Vancouver Giants play. I really try to not pick the same team questions or same teams, but I do ask the questions that I see several different people asking.
Okay, so apparently the Penguins are trading Riley Smith to the Rangers. Elliot Friedman just tweeted that out.
Come to Yarrow. I drive through Yarrow sometimes. Fire Adams, mediocrity again. Do you understand the LA moves?
Yes. From a perspective of a team that sees themselves as being a playoff contender and trying to get into the realm of being a cup contender. I mean, if they view Fogle the same way that I do, Fogle's a really good, hardworking forward. And then adding Edmondson again, it's a bit pricey for Edmondson, but I get it. You're just trying to keep yourself in the picture.
Yes, Langley is part of the Valley, not the Metro. Surrey is part of the Metro, not the Valley. No, Canada Day is not like 4th of July.
Much more chill.
It's different. Canada Day is more of a community thing.
Yes.
And from what I see of 4th of July, some places have the parade, which is very similar, but then it's just a lot of barbecues and fireworks. And while Canada Day has that, it's more community events than just individual family events. At least here anyways. I'm not saying it's the same for all of Canada. But here, Canada Day is a very community thing, and there aren't very many people doing their own fireworks. Not here anyways. For us, Halloween is when people do their own fireworks. We just...
There'll be some tonight, but not like
but
like
it's
Halloween.
Mostly the city does the fireworks. Yeah. Individuals don't do fireworks, which is good because it's a fire hazard. Not so much this year because it's been raining. It's supposed to rain this year. Why do some rebuilding teams sign UFAs? Chicago versus Montreal.
In Chicago's case, they're just trying to fill out a roster. Chicago and San Jose last season, that was the tankiest of tank rosters that I think I'd ever seen for tanking. Chicago is moving past that, so San Jose. So the teardown portion is done. Montreal didn't really do a full teardown. They were definitely doing the rebuild, but they've always had the veterans in the lineup.
Dumba to Dallas. Oh, no.
Yep, Matt Dumba's a member of the Dallas Stars. Hopefully he gets this game back because it's it's been a rough go.
How did Tanev and OEL look in this year's playoffs? Quick description on OEL. Haven't watched him play a lot.
Tanev was fantastic for Dallas. Really going to be missed by Dallas. Block shots like crazy, plays through injuries. OEL had a good bounce back season with Florida. He's not the defenseman he was when he was in Arizona, but he can still play top 4 spot, and he's still got a little bit of offense there. It's going to be interesting to see how they meld with the rest of that blue line in Toronto.
When do you think San Jose gets competitive?
In terms of getting closer to the playoffs, they're going to be closer this year than last year because it can't get much worse. But yeah, next year, I think, like, not this coming season, but the season after. Yeah, right around there.
What do you think about the Kraken's moves?
Risky, but interesting. Montour is a very good defenseman. Chandler Stevenson, I think, is a bit underrated. That being said, his offense dropped off this year with a $6.25 million cap hit. I think Seattle's banking on him getting better next season offensively. We'll see.
Who will be in the league's basement this year?
It could still be San Jose. It's tough to predict who's going to be last in the NHL. You'd think it would be relatively easy, but not necessarily. In terms of teams at the bottom, that's tough because it's hard to pick a team that you can say is absolutely tanking. Maybe San Jose stays at the bottom this year. I don't think so. It's very rare for a team to stay at the bottom, but sure, I'll go with San Jose.
Dumba to Dallas is odd. I did work for the parents of his girlfriend and was told he was hoping for St. Louis or Colorado to stay close to family.
They very likely just didn't make him the offer, and Dallas probably offered more.
It's getting caught again. Darn it. Okay, hold on.
87 signings so far today. That's including the re-signings too, though. Yuri Patera signs with the Canucks. So there's some depth in net right there. He played, of course, for Vegas.
Happy Canada Day from few military overseas.
Happy Canada Day.
Do you like the Canucks signings?
The DeBrusk signing is risky just for the term. The cap hit's okay for this coming season. Yeah, I think the Canucks have done a decent job today. Sherwood, Heinen, those are two good bottom 6 forwards, and Forbert, good bottom pairing defenseman / 7th defenseman.
I saw somebody asking about sending Shannon a magnet. We have our mailing addresses are in the description of every video. We have a Canadian post office box and an American one. The American one we don't get to very often because it's kind of a pain to get down there. But we do have an American address. We just get down sometimes it's a few weeks. Does Hedman get the C now that Stamkos is gone?
Yeah, it's Hedman's. I can't see them giving it to anybody else.
Who is your favorite currently playing Finn?
My favorite Finn currently playing. That's tough off the top of my head. Also, I mean, Buffalo's UPL would have to be up there. UPL's fantastic. Lindell in Dallas as well.
Perfect. Got a few stickers. I'll just make a Utah HC magnet for y'all.
I did find on the NHL store today, and since I've ordered them, I can go ahead and throw this in the live stream. They do have a Utah puck. So I'm going to have a Utah puck for the power rankings board.
Does it just say Utah?
It says Utah Hockey Club, and Utah's in blue. And I did find like the fan pack that I got for you. I think. Yeah. It's like that with Utah. So it's got the magnets are like the ones that I've got here, like these ones.
Oh yeah. So
I've got a Utah one like that coming, and some other decal stuff too. So I'll be okay on Utah, but I've still got that Yeti one that I've been using too. So,
do you have an Austin Ice Bats jersey?
I don't. It sounds like a great name for a team.
It does. Ice Bats. Looks like Kane's front office have decided the window is closed and are rebuilding. Suppose that's what happens when you have a scientist as your GM.
Picking up Sean Walker, Carrier for 6 years at $2 million per season. The term I'm not necessarily really happy with, but Will Carrier is a good player. He's definitely got a really high work ethic.
Have a Fanatics jersey yet?
The new ones aren't even available yet.
Sorry if you mentioned it earlier, but thoughts on Boston's day?
It's a risky day so far for Boston. Both the Zadorov and Lindholm contracts are risky. Very much. The term's what makes them risky.
Do Winnipeg and the Blue Jackets make a deal for Laine?
He'll never go back to Winnipeg. Yeah, he'll never go back to Winnipeg. That won't happen.
Thoughts on the Flames heading into the season?
I don't think the Flames are going to be as bad as people seem to think. I don't think they're a playoff team, but I don't think they're going to be awful either. Lyubushkin signs 3 years, $3.3 million for Dallas. That seems a little bit high for Lyubushkin. But all right. I trust Jim Nill.
Canes have some good forwards ready to make the team as well as Morrow on the blue line.
Yes, they'll be all right. Again, you've got to trust that some of these kids are going to come in and try their best and prove their worth. So you got to trust the kids sometimes.
Thoughts on the Rangers? Think they're working on a trade?
There is a trade that's apparently being made. They're picking up Riley Smith from Pittsburgh. I haven't seen what they're getting back yet, but yeah.
I really, really don't think the Jets would take Laine back.
No.
That
relationship was gone.
So.
That relationship was done. So now Chris Tanev being interviewed. He's, of course, joined the Leafs.
Do you think the Sharks have any more moves in them?
I'm sure they'll make some trades this summer. I'm sure they're going to look to pick up some value guys, and they have the cap space to do it. I don't think they need to do a lot.
Thank you so much for your dedication to the channel, Shannon and Yvonne. Thoughts on all the Caps moves? I think they're doing right by OV, even though it may hurt them down the line.
They're definitely trying to arm themselves and get themselves into a position to make the playoffs next season and maybe do something. I do think it's going to hurt them later, but I mean, Ovechkin's at the stage in his career where if you want to go for it one more time, now's the time to try it.
Can't wait for Avalanche versus Nashville. Should be great matchups in Central. Go Avs.
So I'm putting Aube-Kubel on the board. I think it's a two-way deal between Aube-Kubel and Montreal. I've liked Aube-Kubel, although the last couple seasons, his call-ups to the NHL level have not been as good. Not Aube-Kubel. Barré-Boulet. Sorry. Barré-Boulet. I got the wrong hyphenated name.
Are you surprised at what the Blackhawks have done today?
I wouldn't say I'm surprised. I knew the Hawks were going to do something to add to their roster because Bedard was kind of playing on his own last season. You can't have that. So with Taylor Hall, I would think coming back to play next season and the additions they've made, Chicago's going to be much more competitive.
Do you see the Blues just sitting back and taking on contract dumps to prepare for the Steen era?
Right now, I could see them taking on one, maybe two. Okay, $3.5 million cap hit for Duclair. It's a lot of money.
Thoughts on Utah? Are they done or more trades?
I don't think they're done, but I don't know that they're going to be really busy with free agents from this point going forward, unless they're fill-ins, depth guys.
Will Tampa Bay be in last place this year for the East?
No. Tampa Bay. I know that Tampa Bay losing Stamkos hurts. on some level, but yeah, Gensel's still going to be good. They're still going to be a playoff team, I would think. I'd be very surprised if they fell off.
Does Okposo run it back with a team-friendly deal?
It really depends. I mean, I wouldn't be entirely surprised if Okposo decides to retire.
Thoughts on Cole for Utah? How competitive will they be next year?
Cole had a tough playoff for Vancouver. Ian Cole is a decent third pairing guy. Not a huge difference maker, but yeah, he's a good third pairing guy. Yeah, we'll see how it goes for him in Utah. I like what Utah's done though. They're going to be quite good.
Will the Flyers be doing any moves?
The Flyers, keep in mind, are still in a rebuild, and they've been quite clear that they're viewing this as a rebuild. I don't think they're going to be really busy.
Will Trouba be traded today?
Trouba was signed by, or not Trouba, Dumba. Trouba, I don't think he necessarily gets signed today, but during the summer, I'd be very surprised if he's not.
Sabres still haven't replaced Skinner.
Again, there's a lot of good young players in Buffalo. They'll be fine. Benson's going to see his numbers go up. I really don't think they needed to go out and get anybody today to replace Skinner.
Are the Knights out of playoff contention now?
No, I wouldn't say Vegas is out of playoff contention.
Sad to see Vegas loses players for me.
Yeah, and I mean, it hurts losing Marchessault and Stevenson, but I don't think that necessarily means Vegas isn't going to be a contender, because Vegas has been very aggressive throughout their existence. I don't think that aggression is going to stop. I think the losses they've gone through now, I think they'll figure out a way to mitigate that by the time the season starts.
Sure, y'all are being bombarded with Tampa questions. True.
Absolutely.
LMAO, but what are they doing with this cap space, especially because Stamkos reportedly asked Tampa for $5 million?
Well, we'll see if that ends up being the actual case or not. And again, you don't have to spend that cap space right away. Having cap space is not a bad thing. Cap space can be very, very important, and it can be huge for a team going into the season, especially when other teams don't have it. So I don't think they have to spend the cap. Like, you don't have to look at it and go, well, we've still got $5 million. Let's go get somebody. You don't have to. So I don't think there's necessarily the need to do that.
What are teams looking for after free agency?
Well, at that point, then you look at your depth chart and say, okay, so are we set? And if you're not set, you look to make trades. You look, to see who else is left on the free agent market. Again, very often the smartest moves are not signing players on July the 1st. That can sometimes be the smartest move.
Did the Oilers get Henrique? I thought I saw that somewhere.
I haven't seen anything about Henrique at this point.
Just a reminder, a lot of people like to post random things that are not true or have any actual bearing on reality.
So 2 hours into free agency, $875 million spent.
What moves do you think the Bolts will make now that Stamer is gone?
Well, I mean, they picked up Gensel. So, I mean, Gensel is there to kind of make up for the loss of Stamkos. You're not going to replace Stamkos. There is no magic bullet that's going to replace what Stamkos gave them. It's a matter of Stamkos has moved on. He's 34 years of age. Tampa Bay moves on without him. I think Tampa will be fine. There's still some pretty good players with Tampa, so I think they'll be okay.
Thoughts on Devils moves, long-term, short-term?
The Devils are in good shape. I do like how they've remade the blue line. I do like what they've done with the goaltending as well. I'll be talking about how I feel teams did and looking at depth charts and whatnot over the next few weeks. Not official season previews, of course. Those start of August. But I think New Jersey's done a good job of reinventing themselves.
Thoughts on Hurricanes and their goalie situation?
Goaltending still going to be a thing for them, but one thing with that with their goaltending is Kochetkov's a pretty good young goaltender. I think they're going to be okay. They still have Anderson there. I think they'll be all right.
Any thoughts on where Jeff Skinner might land?
For Skinner, it's going to end up being a probably a lower value contract than he might have wanted, but maybe one of the contending teams that still has the cap space can pick him up.
You hit it, Shannon. We're only 2 hours in. There's still plenty of time to avoid a knee-jerk spreading spree that goes nowhere.
Yeah, I don't like the idea that, you have to spend that. You don't have to spend it today. You don't have to spend it today.
What are your thoughts on the Caps trading for Chychrun and signing Roy?
Chychrun's a good defensive player good defenseman who is more forward than defenseman at times. Definitely a lot of offense there. Matt Roy's been one of my favorite players for a long time, so I think Roy's going to be a really solid pickup.
How do I find hope as a Pens fan?
The Pens, I still think the Pens need a retool. I know there's no appetite for it, but I think they definitely need a retool. They need to get younger. They need some good young players in the lineup. They can't just keep adding veterans and veterans and veterans.
Have you thought about doing a video similar to the one you did explaining the NHL to New Vegas fans, but for Utah this time?
I'm going to be doing stuff like that. There is still the Hockey 101 playlist, but I'll be doing stuff like that for newer fans. Absolutely.
Do you feel Rangers went about today well? What is a possible trade you think they should do?
They just apparently picked up Riley Smith. Trouba apparently is on the move as well. We'll see what the return on that looks like. Keep in mind that they were close. They get all the way to the conference final. Do not over adjust. That's the tricky part. Teams close. Do not over adjust.
Can you explain to these silly geese why Steve Yzerman is being quiet?
The Red Wings, the Red Wings were alive until the very last minute of their last game during the regular season. They very nearly made the playoffs. They were nowhere near the playoffs in previous seasons. So I think the panic around Detroit is crazy. I think Detroit's still in good shape. And I still believe that Yzerman's gradually building the team up. They should be a playoff team this year.
How many picks have Utah given away to be relevant to date?
Not very many. They still ended up with 11 draft picks in the draft this year, and that's even with ones they traded away. They have a ton of draft picks next year too. Utah's got a lot of weapons in terms of future assets that they can move to improve the roster right now.
Opinion on how the Sabres are going to do next year? Do they make the playoffs under Ruff with the current roster? Love your work. Keep it up.
The East is going to be a real dogfight next season. Buffalo should be better. I'd like to see them back in the playoffs. Getting Lindy Ruff behind the bench should help. He usually has a boosting effect on a team when he first gets there. I think it's going to come down to if Luukkonen is the goaltender this season that he was the second half of last season, they have a very good chance.
What's for dinner tonight? Well, it's Canada Day and there's lots of food trucks. So food trucks.
Maple leaves. Everything maple.
I did not see maple food trucks.
So they have like maple leaf.
I saw that there's a Bannock food truck, so that'd be fun. And there's a Donair food truck.
Oh, I like Bannock.
So that's fun too. Great. So that's my plan. Food trucks. I don't need to make dinner on Canada Day. I can have a day off. That works.
Caps have signed Radish to a 1-year, $1 million contract. Yep, that's what I've got on the board.
Will you be coming to any games in Utah in the regular season?
Not for this season.
That would be really tricky.
I can't foresee that yet. So the Penguins have acquired a 2027 second-round draft pick and a 2025 fifth-round pick from the Rangers in exchange for Riley Smith. So it's a straight-up move for picks. So
hey,
Riley
Vaughn
Smith goes
and
to the
Yvonne's
Rangers.
Husband. Oh, poutine. Yeah, there's a poutine truck there too. There's
is.
always a poutine truck. And the food trucks with poutine are always really good. There's no beaver tails though, which is really lame. What's up with that?
It happens.
But yeah, there's a Bannock truck, so that's all right. I guess it's okay. Thoughts on Dallas defensive situation?
It's going to be interesting to see how Dumba works out for them. Labushkin too seems a little bit pricey. So while I trust Jim Nill and he's done a good job with Dallas over the years, those are a couple of pricey contracts for what those players did this past season. We'll see how it all works out.
Oh, Nanaimo bars for dessert. Here we go. We could have Nanaimo bars and butter tarts. Got a really Canadian it
That
up.
sounds like a really healthy.
I would be
route to go.
So sick.
Yeah, I don't know that my
sick.
stomach would like that either.
Sounds delicious.
All right, Brendan Smith goes to Dallas as well. That's a lot of blue liners going to Dallas.
Are the Wild done signing?
The Wild probably, because Minnesota doesn't have the cap space to compete with some of these teams right now for players.
Okay, I have to read this one. Yvonne, I assume you weren't being literal, so what's a beaver tail? No, it's not actually a beaver's tail. Beavers are protected, and they're so stinking cute. We've got beavers that live here, and they're adorable, so you can't eat them. Beavers' tails are kind of like, what's the American one? It's really similar. Elephant ears. No, they're similar to elephant ears, but not quite. But it's a flatbread that's like a fried, dog snout? And you put cinnamon and sugar on them. And they're really, really good. They're great. And they used to always have them in the food trucks for Canada Day or the little city fairs and stuff.
They're like beignets.
But they're not anything like beignets.
They're very similar to beignets.
They're not.
Or
Shannon's making crap up.
I speak English, so they're bagnets.
They're bear claws. Aren't bear claws donuts?
So when we go to Disney, should I do that? Should I go up and go, donuts, I'd like some bagnets, please.
Right? No.
And I have 6 bagnets.
Right? So if bear claws are what I'm thinking.
Get kind of lodged in here.
Right. But aren't those donuts? So those are nothing like beaver tails. Somebody else is asking what's a bear claw. Aren't they donuts? I don't know. Red Deer, we got all of the July 1st fireworks. All we get is Indian food trucks. I love Indian food trucks. Took me so long to find one poutine. Oh, that's sad. We do have a lot of Indian food trucks. So we have a lot of Indian food, period. And it's great.
Yep.
It's awesome. I think it's more likely Detroit acquires via trade than free agency. I would still look at either Natchez or Ehlers.
That is quite possible. And keep in mind that for Carolina, a team that's been kind of quiet today, the Natchez deal might be what they're looking at and what they're kind of banking on.
Bear claw is like a croissant with chocolate inside. Is it really?
I guess.
Well, no, not like a funnel cake. It's like an elephant ear, kind of, but not as poofy.
But what about an elephant trunk, though?
Not funnel cake, though. Funnel cake is, since it's all
do you have to make it
fried.
With a funnel?
It doesn't taste all fried.
Is it a cake that tastes like a funnel, or you make it with a funnel? You make it with a funnel, right?
You can make it with a funnel. Because then you
can you make it out of a funnel?
No. Shannon. Okay.
It's not really a funnel.
Bolts fan and longtime viewer here. Can't remember the last time I've been this sad. Stammer was the face of our city. I started watching in his rookie year. I'm trying to be optimistic, but this feels like losing a loved one.
I totally get why it feels that way. I remember when the Canucks in the mid-90s started losing everybody, and it was usually for nothing. It can be tough. The trick becomes then for Julien Brisebois, this is where he earns his money. If he's able to adjust and make improvements to Tampa Bay to keep them in the hunt for a playoff spot next year and maybe contending for a cup.
In the U.S., bear claws are Danish. Okay, that's kind of what I was picturing. That's what I was picturing. Hello, hockey guy and gal. Question, what do you recommend for washing your hockey jerseys? Machine settings, detergent type. I always do cold water, but I generally wash everything with cold water anyways. I use our regular laundry soap. You can also use Dawn dish soap. That works really well as well. Wash inside out preferably, and never, ever, 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 ever put it in the dryer. Never put it in the dryer. That's the most important thing when it comes to washing. Do not put your jersey in the dryer. But you can wash it just like all of your other laundry. Make sure there's no Velcro in your washer, because it will attach to the jersey and your jersey will be very, very sad after that. If you get stains on it, you can use stain remover. Works quite well. Yeah. Evening from the UK. Have my Jets signed anyone?
Eric Comrie, 1 year, $825,000. So goaltender Eric Comrie returns to Winnipeg. Eric Robinson, signs a 1-year deal officially with the Canes. I think it's $1 million.
What are your thoughts on the Hawks' moves? Love all the work you do.
The Hawks have added a lot of depth. They're going to be a more competitive team this coming season, which is good. It won't just be the Bedard show, so this should allow Bedard's point totals to go through the roof next season.
Any plans on going to gigs this summer? I was working at a big festival this past weekend, and though I'm old, live music is always such a good time.
We don't have any concerts this summer.
Well, I'm taking the kids to one at the end of August, so that counts as a summer, right? I'm taking the kids to Marilyn Manson and Five Finger Death Punch. They're really excited about it. Well, at least 2 of them are. And then we've got a Weezer concert. That's in the autumn. And then we have
my concert.
Yeah, the Shannon concert.
My concert, which is The Warning, then Hailstorm, and then Evanescence is the headliner. I'm very excited.
With these big moves by Nashville, is our window open again? I'm afraid that my teams core my age out before we win anything, since Stamkos is old.
Stamkos is 34. That will be a concern. However, a pretty good team that made the playoffs. Now they've added Stamkos, Marchessault. Both of them had 40-goal seasons. Shea had an excellent season on the blue line, and Wedgwood added in goal. I think they're going to be dangerous in that division.
Do you think LA gets anyone else, or is that it?
LA, again, they're a team that's right on the cusp of potentially being a contender. I know that Kings fans aren't all that happy with the Rob Blake moves over the years, but yeah, that's probably that might be it for LA at this stage.
Love your videos. Will Dallas
Thank you.
Save some cap space or spend?
Well, who have cap space or spend?
Dallas. There's another Dallas question.
Dallas. Well, they've already spent $10 million combined between DeSmith, Dumba, Lyubushkin, and I'm still waiting on the cap hit for Brendan Smith. So they've spent some money.
What does Dallas pay Thomas Harley now? $5.5 million cap left.
Harley's going to eat up almost all of that at this point. I'd be very surprised if Dallas does anything more with that amount of money left. That doesn't work.
Okay. Capitals, 10+ million over cap. Only if had resource for reference.
Well, does that include Backstrom though? Because Backstrom's probably not going to play again. So that'll eat into that right away if Backstrom's not included in that amount. And isn't Oshie taking the year off as well? So yeah, I think Caps will be fine.
Oh, somebody else is going to Five Finger. Oh, I know. In Edmonton, Metallica is opening. Whoa, that was close. I saved it. Caught it. Don't worry.
Yeah,
I caught it. Yeah, your pen's okay. I didn't drop my cup, though. That was the important part. But in Edmonton, they get Metallica instead of Marilyn Manson. How cool would that be? We don't in here in Vancouver. So, hey now.
Sorry.
Hopefully,
that was a mistake.
Marilyn Manson behaves. Shannon.
That was on purpose.
Whatever. They're both intentional. Okay. Let me see if I can catch up here.
So Bertuzzi to Chicago. Dries.
Smooth
Reddish.
or crunchy peanut butter?
Crunchy.
Depends.
Not crunchy. It does not depend. It's just crunchy's the right answer.
It depends. I usually like smooth peanut butter unless I'm making cookies.
DeHaan's going to Colorado. So that's depth on the blue line for Colorado. We'll see what the cap hit looks like.
Crunchy is the only answer.
It is. Any other answer is just evil.
Huh. Guess I'm evil then.
Wait, you prefer smooth peanut butter?
Have you not noticed that's what I usually buy? Are you only noticing this now after all these years?
Where's the nearest divorce lawyer? I assume there's some divorce lawyers probably around here somewhere. That's very likely. All right. I'll give you a call.
Oh. Will they?
Yeah. It's going to be fine.
Good to know.
Oh, there you go. Detroit has signed Jack Campbell to a 1-year, $775,000 contract. Okay, now I'm with Detroit fans. Not sure what Detroit's doing here because you've added Campbell and Talbot. So both former Oiler goaltenders. They already have Husso and Lyon. Yeah, okay. All right.
90s bands are definitely getting old, but we're getting old too, so it's all right. A lot of them are still awesome.
The Warning's not a 90s band. They're a new band.
They're not.
They're great.
They're significantly younger.
They're fantastic.
Detroit is going to be only goalies.
I don't understand. Does Yzerman understand that they don't need all the goalies?
Dude, you won't get another girl like this one. There you go. See?
That's kind of what I'm banking on.
Shannon.
It's not like you divorce somebody and go, boy, I sure hope I get another one of those.
True. That is true. Shannon.
I was thinking of trading in my car for another car that's exactly the same.
Well, we did trade in a Dodge Caravan and got a new Dodge Caravan, and then we traded that one in and got another Dodge Caravan.
So you're saying I could trade in an Yvonne for a younger model? Hey, guys have been known. It's been known to happen.
I know it's
been known to happen.
Good luck finding a younger Yvonne. Most Yvonnes are significantly
Hey, I might have to go outside of the country, but
you might. Okay. Hi, Shannon. What are your thoughts on Jake DeBrusk to Vancouver?
It's a long-term deal. The term again, you're basically in a bidding war with other teams. I get it, but it's a pricey contract. It's the term does bother me a little bit, but again, it's part of doing business, and the Canucks had to get another forward. They absolutely had to.
Yeah, Shannon's a brat. Sorry. We already know.
Okay, so Robinson gets that 1 year. I think it's a $1 million cap hit for him.
Are the Isles done for the day, or do they do more?
Lou Lamoriello signed a contract today. You want him to sign 2 contracts? It's not really how Lou does things. My guess is they'll probably be pretty quiet. But in the coming days, I wouldn't be surprised if they look around at what's left. And I will definitely do a video as well on which players are still left out there as free agents, and which guys who might provide some good value as well.
Yes, the Warning are the 3 sisters from Mexico. We've seen them before. They opened for 3 Days Grace.
Yep,
they were really good.
They were fantastic. And I had never heard their music until I saw them live. And I came out of that concert saying, I need all of that music.
Which is funny because I already knew who they were and I knew their songs.
Yeah, I was very, very happy to discover them. So looking forward to that.
Is it true the Penguins signed Ryan Shea? $775.
Yes. They bring Shea back on a 1-year league minimum. I think it's a 2-way contract as well for Shea.
Campbell and potentially Trouba to Detroit is certainly a choice by Yzerman.
I mean, the one thing with Campbell is it's only a $775,000 cap hit. So zero risk to Detroit picking him up. I'm just kind of surprised they picked up Campbell.
Who do you think pays Lankinen how much as well?
Lankinen's probably going to end up in the, I would say, $2.5 million cap hit range. There's definitely some teams out there that could use another goaltender. Maybe Anaheim. If Anaheim's going to move Gibson, maybe you pick up a Lankinen and you go with Dostal and Lankinen this coming season.
On the topic of peanut butters, what if you're allergic to peanuts? Why would you want chunks of peanuts in your peanut butter if you're allergic? I think if you're allergic, you wouldn't really care. You just want it not in your house. Also, little Zed in Boston now, since we already have Big Zed. There you go.
The Zadorov contract will be fine initially, but I don't know how well it's going to age. That's the one question mark I have is how well it's going to age. So 92 players signed so far. Michkov officially signed his entry-level contract with Philadelphia today, so that's done.
Sharks have $22 million in cap space, but over the floor right now, do you see them doing anything else?
I mean, they don't have to. We'll see. They could use a goaltender as well, so we'll see what they do.
Cap Friendly has it at 94 signings so far today.
All right, well, TSN shows 92. It is definitely a lot of signings, and I will be doing a video on this as soon as we're done the live stream, which will be done the live stream pretty soon. Won't be much longer. Yvonne's going to need a nap.
No, I got to go to the fun Canada Day stuff. Yeah, all the city stuff starts at 1. So that's always fun. Devin Cooley not on the board.
No, I don't even know if Cooley's gonna play NHL games this coming season. With the depth charts as it is, I don't necessarily think so.
Do you think the Devils need another top 6 guy?
I mean, it couldn't hurt, but there's a lot of good young players coming into their lineup as well. So 2 years.
If you're asking Shannon if he saw your comment, the answer is no. He's not looking at the comments. I am. He's busy watching the trades. If you're asking me if I've seen your comments, I'm not really looking at who they're from. I don't have that kind of memory either. Sorry. Enjoy your videos. Always great info and insight. What defenseman should the Blue Jackets be targeting in free agency?
The free agent market right now, like the big defensemen are off the board. For Columbus, it's going to be depth players. It's going to be depth players from here. As I said, I'm going to do a video on who's still out there in free agency. But a lot of the big players are done. So it's going to be depth guys and then looking for, guys improving from within. Columbus has a few different guys in the prospect range who are going to be expected to push for roster spots this year.
Not a Canes follower, but wow, they look like big losers today when it comes to their defensive core.
Yes, but again, at least one of these contracts probably ends up looking bad 2-3 years down the road. So we'll see. We'll see how it turns out. But it is only July the 1st. There's still a whole summer for teams to make adjustments and fix themselves from within.
Do you guys ever go to North Fan? Yeah, sometimes.
Every now and then.
It's really pretty. What should the Canucks do with their top 4 or HD hole?
They're going to have to go the trade route. They're going to have to go the trade route with that. But I think they probably knew that anyways. Or hope for, again, somebody to improve from within, somebody to jump up into one of those spots. Again, I'll do videos looking at depth charts around the NHL and having some fun with that, looking at teams that have made big changes and where they might need to make further improvement. I'll be doing that over the next couple of weeks.
Will Montreal make any more moves?
They don't really need to. Watch for some teams that are cap strapped to, call up teams that aren't. Montreal's got a ton of cap space. They're more worried about re-signing, making sure Slavkovsky gets re-signed and Gooley and making sure they get all those long-term deals done with their young players.
We don't have fake jerseys.
Nope.
None of those are fake jerseys. You guys would be able to tell so easily if Shannon was wearing a fake when he was doing a video. You'd be able to tell really easily. We can tell a fake jersey from pretty far away.
Yeah.
That would look really bad. So
Would I have fakes up there?
I know. There's no.
I wouldn't have fakes up there.
You'd be able to see how much the colors don't match. That would look so bad. I knew Kings would drop when
Klingberg.
Oh, yep. Would drop when
he left
Dallas. What's next?
Klingberg, I mean, he's had so many issues and health issues. I don't know where he goes.
Yeah, fakes are super easy to spot.
Yes.
When we go to games, we can see them really far away. The colors are never right.
Yep.
Never. And then the logos are always bubbly and wrinkled. Not a good look. Any plans to visit South Florida to see a Panthers game or go to Tampa for Lightning?
At this point, no, but eventually we will be heading into that area. Okay, so the Capitals currently they're $14.2 million over the cap. So $9.2 million can go on LTIR with Backstrom, but that's like the maximum. So they're going to need to create a bunch of cap space. So that's where teams that have cap space now could talk to the Washington Capitals and pick somebody up. And that's where you weaponize your cap space.
Are you excited to watch the beginnings of Utah?
It's always fun to watch a new market starting out. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting season.
Some people can't afford a $350 jersey.
You can get jersey.
You can get real jerseys for way cheaper. We don't buy any jerseys.
I have not paid $350 for a jersey since the first round of reverse retros. And that was only because they were so limited. I had to pay that to get it. I have not paid $350 for any of those jerseys.
How many NHL arenas have you been to for a game?
3. Vegas, Anaheim, and Vancouver, of course. Now, AHL, that would include Abbotsford as well.
Anyone make a move for Askarov? Montreal should.
Again, apparently the ask from Nashville is pretty high. So the tricky part becomes goaltenders never get the return that fans think they're going to get. And very often teams will put a premium price on a goaltender, and they almost never get that premium price.
Opinion on the Stars signings today?
They're pricey. They're pricey signings. Yeah, Dumba and Labushkin, those are pricey signings for guys who at this point in time are probably better off as third pairing. So if that's their third pairing, it's an expensive way to go about it. Tufte is going to Boston. All right, Tufte on the board. He was a Dallas prospect, of course. Riley Tufte, he can fill in. He can be a fill-in guy. I'm sure it's a 2-way contract.
Shannon's done videos about where he buys his jerseys.
I absolutely have. 1 year, $800,000 for DeHaan with the Avalanche.
Given the Kane signing, do you see Detroit preferring a deal for Nietzsche over Ehlers? Also, do you think there's a chance for a Cedar offer sheet?
There's not very many teams right now after what's happened today that have the cap space to put in an offer sheet that would actually take Cider away from Detroit. I don't think there's much chance of an offer sheet. Yeah, I think they're pretty well in the clear right now.
Just curious, what are your thoughts on the Oilers?
The Oilers are a team that's going to remain in contention next season. While they've had some losses today, picking up Arvidsson, I think, is a smart move. And again, as long as he stays healthy, he can score 30.
Who did the Kraken get?
Brendan Montour signed 7 years, $7 million per. Chandler Stevenson's also signs 7 years, $6.25 million per season for Chandler Stevenson.
Where do you think a new NHL team could be located?
Houston's next. They're going to go back to Atlanta. And then if they go as high as 36, which I think is probably going to be the plan, they may try Arizona a second time. If they don't go to Arizona, that's where a team like maybe Milwaukee, maybe Kansas City, and then I think we could have the Quebec City conversation. If they don't put a team in Quebec City and they expand to 36, I think we can officially say we will never get a team back in Quebec City.
Vegas has shed a lot of cap. Who do you think they might target before the trade deadline?
There's again, the trade deadline's so far away. Trade deadline's like 9 months off from now. So it's or 7 months off from now. What are months anymore? What are days? Yeah, we have no idea because we don't know who's going to be in contention, who's not, who's going to be available, who's not. Max Jones goes to Boston.
Love the channel.
Thank you very much. So Max Jones, Riley Tufte, Boston picking up some depth players.
Opinion on worst contract signed today? Stephenson stands out so far.
I mean, Stevenson, there's definitely some risk to that, but Stevenson was going to get paid. I think he's been on a bargain contract with Vegas for a long time. I think Stevenson's a good player. I don't know if I would give him $6.25 million necessarily in cap, but he's a good forward. So hard to say what a bad contract is today. To me, the Dumba one in Dallas kind of stands out at $3.75 million per season, but maybe he can find his offense there.
Where are all the cats? Azrael is in that window.
Maple, Shadow.
Maple's at the top of
Bear's
the tree over
here.
There. Yep. So Pixel's probably on our bed.
In Adelaide's room or in, yeah.
And then we only have 2 bunnies in here.
Yes.
So there you go. That's the cat situation right now.
Yep.
What about Matt Duchene?
Duchene re-signed with Dallas, 1 year, $3 million for Duchene with Dallas.
Did the Cats overpay for Reinhart? Who should Panthers target, if anyone?
The term is definitely risky with Reinhart. The cap hit's perfectly fine, considering he's a 50 goal scorer this year. He would have got more than that on the market.
No, cats indoors. We like them to be safe. So.
Yes.
Our bunnies are just bunnies. They're just a mixed breed. They do have quarter dwarf in them, so they're tiny. Pretty petite buns, but they're just bunnies.
Yeah. All right. We should get going though, because I got stuff I'm gonna be doing, and then you want to do the
Canada Day stuff.
Canada Day stuff. I'm gonna be doing a bunch of video stuff today, so don't worry. I'll be covering as much as I can. I'll be going over this monster board behind me and cleaning up any cap hits where I can. But yeah, so Samsonov's going to Vegas as a for instance, but the actual numbers have yet to be revealed. So we'll see how that ends up looking. But yeah, thank you guys so much for coming out. We'll do another live stream at some point soon, so stay tuned for that. But thanks for coming out. I think this might be one of the longest streams we've done on a free agent day. But thank you guys so much for that.
My eyes are definitely going.
And yeah, I know. She's going all cross-eyed and everything.
Trouble.
So take care, guys, though, and I will talk to you again soon. And happy Canada Day.